What do they put this in front of?
I don't know. I had to move.
I'm not going to say anything. I just like we got too many items.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like at this time to call the audit and control meeting to order for February. If everyone's had an opportunity to read the minutes from last meeting or review, I would accept a motion to accept.
I've read them. I thought they were very well done, and I'd like to make a motion to approve them.
And a second.
We got a second.
And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here today to speak to the privilege of the floor? If so, come right down front.
Nope. Close it.
Not seeing any, we'll move into our items on the agenda. And the first item today is a local law introductory 3-24 is a local law amending local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees, the coroner, supervisor, and Department of Health.
Good morning, Mike Falch, County Chief Medical Officer and Coroner Supervisor. As most of you know, we've had discussions over the last year about the state of our coroner program. While we've made great strides to provide some stability, there's always this lingering threat of turnover for a variety of number of reasons that we have discussed previously. In the 2024 budget, funding was approved for a coroner supervisor position. We've worked closely with Human Resources to develop a job duty statement and job qualifications, as well as a management salary that is proposed at being set at a management level 5 with a range of 50, I think it's on your paper, $52,000 and change up to a range of $82,000. We have put in the budget for 2024 somewhere in between $58,000 to $60,000 for a salary, plus the fringe. And this is a bachelor's level position, preferably at least, or 5 years of experience in forensics, healthcare related field, or EMS. And this is kind of where we've all agreed would be a fair salary range for that level of experience required. Keep in mind too that we allocated funding for this position from a previous public health nurse position that went vacant for a while. And that's in addition to the 4 FTEs that were reduced for the 2024 budget. So this is not a new position. We're not increasing FTEs for this.
Okay. Questions? Anyone have questions for Dr. Falk?
So I'm a little new here, but when we go about budgeting things, of course, we've got the market salaries, comparables. How do we account for the on-costs, the health insurance, the Social Security, all of those things that go on, the next line down in a payroll function with these, and compare those to market to see a total package cost?
Yeah, it's a difficult position to look at across the state because every county does something very, very different. We have medical examiners, we have coroners, we have elected coroners, appointed coroners, and we have death investigators. So we really took when we looked at the salary for this position, it was really based on more of death investigators across the state and more in line with that. I don't really have a great understanding of what the fringe, those healthcare benefits and such are, compared county to county. But that is, within the budget for this year for 2024, those fringe costs.
So if we added FTE, the budget process takes care of adding the fringe cost
Right.
to the FTE?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to further answer that question, it's quite honestly a guess. If you hire someone, they may say, I don't need insurance, my wife has insurance, or my husband has insurance, or they say, we need a family plan. And we have 5 kids at home, and so your insurance cost could be 0 or
Yeah, that's true,
20,000.
too.
So, you know, it's a little hard to decipher
On a one-
budget for that, but.
Yeah. On a one-off basis, it's hard. I mean, I guess in a statistical pool of people, you start getting an average, but yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? No other questions? Thank you for coming in today. Next item on the agenda is local law number 4. It's a local law amending local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees, the law graduate for the Chautauqua County Law Departments.
Good morning, Patrick Slagle, County Attorney. So the local law before you is an attempt to continue our tradition of recruitment and retention we've been working towards. What this will allow us to do is to offer a higher salaried position to a law graduate, someone who's graduated from law schools pending results of the bar exam or taking the bar exam and wants to become employed with the county. This will allow us to extend that kind of offer to this individual. As you know, the public defender, the district attorney, and the county attorney's office and DSS attorneys have struggled with recruitment purposes. This will allow us to get an individual who's out there with the skills and the knowledge to come work for us.
Questions, comments?
I'll just say, I think it's a good idea.
Sounds good. Hopefully we can.
Patrick, I think it's a good idea.
And just a brief timeline. I used myself as an example. When I graduated from law school in May, I sat for the bar exam in July. I found the results out in November and wasn't admitted until March. And so I think they've shrunken that timeline, but still quite a bit of time that someone's waiting to find out that they've passed and then to get admitted to the bar. So this will allow us to take that individual that has that skill, hire them at a higher salary, close to what they'd be making as an attorney, so they get in here, get experience, provide services to the county, and then also, save that person from going to another, county or another private law firm. So it's really a good option for us.
Good. We need the people in the office, so.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the next local law. Thank you. Next local law is number 5. It's a local law amending local law 70-07, real property tax law, section 459C, persons with disabilities and limited incomes for real property tax exemptions.
Kim Moline, Director of Real Property Tax here at the county. Let me go first.
Yeah.
Okay, so this exemption is for people who are disabled and have a low income or income. We are looking to increase the income to 50,000 from the, I think 20,000, 20 or 22,000 that it was previously. I think the last time it was changed was in
14 or 16.
2014. And obviously people's incomes have changed since then. I did do some research since the last committee meeting. There are currently 66 parcels in the county that receive this exemption now. Unfortunately, with the eligibility requirements, I feel like this isn't going to be a huge impact on taxes. I do have the instructions for you guys, so you could look it over on what people have to do to qualify for the exemption. They would apply at the assessor's office, and the assessor would ultimately either approve them or deny them the exemption. And I found out, which I didn't know on this, if they receive the senior exemption, they are not allowed to receive the disabled exemption, because then they would have higher taxes, because the senior exemption exempts them 50%, and so does this exemption, which I didn't know. So I learned something new looking into it.
So this would be for people with disabilities and with limited
Yes.
income. So they would have
So
to have the disability,
They would have
correct?
to have the disability
Yeah.
according to what the state guidelines are, and they would have to make 50,000 or less, and that would even be like combined income. It's not just based on one person.
Mhm. How did you come up with the $50,000?
That's the state maximum.
Okay.
And it was, before that, it was 20 in 2014?
20 or 22,000.
22.
So this is a jump well above inflation, over whatever we got here, 10 years, right? Yeah, we haven't more than doubled our CPI in 10 years, have we?
I think the idea behind this, this proposal is to raise it to the limit that's proposed by the state, that they've increased it, and then it's something that you don't have to sit here every year and look to increase. Because the fear is that individuals may drop out of this exemption if their income is increased. So this will allow us to, increase it to the maximum amount, and then just hold tight for a while until it's reviewed. It's almost as if the state count does that review for us. They've taken a look, they've increased the exemption, saying you can go up to this amount now. So by going up to that amount, then you can go several years without having to worry about adjusting it again. Then down the road, the state then increases that amount. Maybe they increase up to 65,000, and this body can then take a look at that point and say, should we also go up to that amount? Is enough time passed to where we need to increase it?
You said that there's 66 people utilizing this now with they're under the 24,000 or whatever it is now. Now that it's 50, what do you expect that number to be? Is it, obviously those
can't.
66 will stay the same, but are we gonna have
Unfortunately,
166?
with the other guidelines, you can't really,
Yeah.
if they can't just come in and say, oh, I have this, I'm disabled, I need this exemption. They have to show adequate
Sure.
proof. They have to have a letter from Social Security. They have to have some sort of proof that that is in fact the case. I mean, most towns in the county have one person that's on it. It's not something that is easily obtainable.
Well, it's hard to stay under the $24,000 income. Now they can stay under a $50,000 income, which is really a good amount of
Right,
income.
but
Well-
both people, if there's two people who own the property and they're not husband and wife, both people have to be disabled to get it. If it's a husband and wife, one of them, but a husband and wife have a dual income, and usually it's not going to be,
Mhm.
it'll probably still be over the 50.
And it's kind of hard to predict how many are gonna be added, because we don't know, we don't get everybody's income tax. You don't know.
Right,
Well, that's understood.
I mean, it'd be neat to say it could be 100, but we don't. Everybody doesn't show us their income tax.
right.
So,
And a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that, so they don't apply for an exemption like
Right.
that because they don't want you to see their income.
Sure.
Sure. Well, so let's just say I'm a single guy, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm working from home and I'm a computer jock. I'm really good. I can, earn that 50,000, or I'm making 49,000 all by myself, just fine. And that supports me, just fine. But now I'm disabled and I qualify, right?
You would get half off of your assessment
Right.
if you applied for the exemption.
Which is a very different case than if I'm married and got 3 kids.
Mhm.
And I'm not a computer jock and I'm in a wheelchair. Okay.
And I do have those for you guys too, that I sent out to admin services yesterday, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to local law number 6. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a local law amending local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees, the county historian.
Good morning, PJ Wendell, County Executive. So what you see before you is a proposal upon the retirement of the last county historian. We revamped the position. The position was actually created and muddied, if you will, with a records management position. The position was created upon the passing of our 104-year-old historian some many years ago. It was a $4,000 stipend, and it was blended in with the records management, so there's a lot of confusion as to where the records management ended and historian began and vice versa. So what we did, and actually with some consultation with the previous historian, we created a different position, full-time, not a full-time, part-time historian, but focused on historian, not records management. It's 20 hours a week. Salary is $30,000, 15 of which there are no fringe. There is no benefits associated with that. The salary, half of that comes from the county executive's office. The other half comes from our 3% occupancy tax. This is budgeted for the 2024 budget, so you will not see an impact. We just had to make sure that that the salary range was changed prior to offering the position. Flexible hours, where we are going to ask for set hours during the week, leaving that up to the individual. But also flexible hours to when they present in the afternoon or evenings to other groups throughout the county, that they will use that as their salary time.
Good. Questions, comments? I think having the position filled will be great, and in a sense it'll having a dedicated person for some dedicated time can help improve our we have a lot of history people, a lot of history buffs, and if we can help build that portion of our county stance, it'll help. People have something to look at on a website, right? And have it really designed well, and that people can say, look at all this stuff on here. Let's go check it out. Let's go see this. Let's go look at that. And that's something a historian that with some dedicated time can do. So
Certainly. There's a lot of people that come back here to trace family lineage. Want to make sure that it's not really a genealogy purpose. It's not, the person is not going to come back and research, family ties to Chautauqua County, but if there's certain historical pieces that historian would be able to, help us out and access. They will have access to our records downstairs, mindful, just like a library. If you're going to use it, make sure they don't leave the premises, and they'll be put back in the same place where you found it. But we do have an immense amount of history here in Chautauqua County, and the position is we need to get it filled and get going.
And you did say you've got a couple of candidates?
Yes, yep, we have two. I've ironed it down to one, and then we're waiting till this gets passed, and then we'll be making an offer.
any other questions, comments? Everything sounds good. We'll move on to
Thank
the
you.
next one. Thank you. Local law number 7 is the local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter, amending section 405.
Patrick Sligo, County Attorney.
Debbie Mikowski, Director of HR.
So this local law is coming out of the Salary Review Commission based on their suggestions. I'll note that this is a local law. All local laws are subject to roll call votes. As this is a charter amendment, this will need a 2/3 vote for passage at the full meeting on next Wednesday. And what this charter revision does is actually adds in a specific timeline for when the Salary Review Commission meets. Currently under the charter, it's not specified as to when they meet. And you could tell the language that's underlined is new additional language from what's already in the charter. And again, it's looking for every 4 years, beginning no later than April 1st, 2027, and then at least 4 years thereafter, they shall meet the commission. There's already precedence for this. There is an administrative code and charter review commission, and they meet every 10 years. So that's in the charter. So this would just mirror that provision. Again, having this commission meet every 4 years doesn't mean that changes have to be made. Doesn't mean that changes will be suggested. It just sets up a timeline for them to meet, to make that, to review and see what's going on with, current salaries, current CPI, and things of that nature.
I like the adjustment. I've been an advocate for the commission to review so that we didn't get a long lax in The review, we've been stepping up over the last few years some of our management salary plans for some of the individuals that work throughout the county, and it had gotten to where rates were higher than some of the elected leadership positions, which is alarming in the sense that how do you promote for a quality, good candidate, and someone just raise their hand to do it if the could get number 2 spot for better benefits. So I'm a good proponent of this, and we won't get behind. And it's a sticky subject. Nobody ever wants to give themselves a raise, but in a sense, it's important that we review it. Doesn't mean that we have to.
Kind of, again, a new guy question. So, I mean, I come from big corporate America where, salary administration is kind of a core thing you do. Benchmarking is a core thing you do. Internal equity is you look at. External equity you look at. What is our process as county government for doing those kind of things? I mean, going to 4 years from 10 is a great start, but do we have a documented process for salary administration?
Well, and then this would be just for the elected officials,
Understood.
just for the county clerk, county executive, the legislators, and the
Sure.
sheriff. So that's just for the elected, but for other
Well,
staff.
but for the whole, for the whole show, whether they're elected or hired.
Yeah, and I think historically, a salary review per se has been sporadic.
Yeah.
So I don't think we necessarily have that process well documented.
Right.
We do heavily utilize New York State Association of Counties, NISAC, statewide wage salary.
Database, or?
It's done annually.
Mhm.
We get a copy of that that's the basis that was used for all of the research.
Mhm.
For December 2022's management salary plan review and for the elected official salary review commission.
And so that's a source of benchmarking data.
Correct,
Good, okay.
correct. But as far as an internal process, because it's been so infrequently performed, we do not have a standard process.
Okay, yeah, because, I mean, as you know, we start giving raises and adding people ad hoc, each one may make sense individually, and then when you line them all up, you go, wait a minute, what do I got here?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? We'll move on to the next one. Thank you. Next item is number 8, local law introductory. Number 8 is a local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter. It's amending section 4.6.
So this, again, would be amendment to the charter, so it'd be a 2/3 vote required by roll call. And what this does is just cleans up language that's in the charter that's no longer necessary. It, at one point, set forth the salary of the executive, the sheriff, and the clerk, and those salaries are no longer the salaries that are currently being paid. So to leave them in the charter just would cause confusion, so there's no sense leaving there, so the recommendation is to pull that out.
Pretty simple. Any questions, comments? I think that shows the need for the review commission.
And just on that point real quickly, in the charter right now, every 10 years, there's that charter review and administrative code review commission that'll be formed. That's done by July, so shortly that will be coming forth for passage to name the members for that commission, and they'll look through the charter and they'll find other language that may be outdated and work to pull that out or make other suggestions. So, and that's done every 10 years, so, in conjunction with that, every 4 years for the salary review commission, you'll have, periodic reviews of, important documents within the county.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to the next local law. It's local law number 9. It's establishing the salary level for Chautauqua County Executive.
So based on the recommendations of the Salary Review Commission, effective January 1st, 2026, the salary of the county executive shall be increased by $16,210. Again, that amount is looking at what the county executive currently makes, what comparable county executives make elsewhere. That difference between that gap, 50% of that difference is the $16,210.
So the average county executive in New York State makes $32,000 more than our county executive?
Yes.
Correct.
How'd that happen? Well, okay, let's get rid of, Kings County and Manhattan and then the rest of that, but outside of the greater New York City area, is that true?
Yes. And,
Wow.
and actually, the data from, the Salary Review Commission, the commission made the decision to only look at comparable sized counties. 14 is what we
Fair
what they
enough.
came back with. However, for a county executive, there's only 3 of those 14 comparable counties who actually had the title of county executive. So between Chautauqua County and the other 3, so that we were comparing apples to apples.
Sure.
Yes, the difference was 32, the average annual salary was 143,000.
Right. And so for a moment, title aside, if you looked at duties, in semi-rural, semi-urban county like Chautauqua County, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call them if they've got the same duties.
Right.
But
True.
yeah, so that's a big gap. It's, 30% plus gap, right? Or not quite yet, 25% gap. Okay. Wow.
And again, the suggestion was instead of applying, the full difference and bringing them up to the same
Sure.
salary, was just to apply half now,
Yeah.
to do it in steps.
So that was essentially an exercise in political modesty. Okay.
I believe you call that, yes.
Your name's on a lot of these that you're bringing forward this month.
Somebody's gotta do it.
I guess so. Guess you're right.
And I'm able and willing.
Any other questions on the local law number 9?
If I can go on record, though, they're not all my idea. I'm just asked to.
You just sponsor it.
Yes.
I guess
Not
I
that
have to
they're
look
bad
up the
ideas.
definition of a sponsor then in this
Yeah,
case.
for clarification, local laws are required to have a sponsor. Legislative Scudder is always willing to receive a phone call and to hear what's being presented and agreeing to sponsor. And again, by sponsoring it doesn't mean that Legislative Scudder supports it and will have to vote in the affirmative. It just, he wishes it to
Willing
be
to
brought
bring
forward
to
to the greater body.
God bless you.
Yeah, I'm just the first one to answer Patrick calls when he's looking for his response.
Everyone else hits ignore.
I usually answer yes.
I see how it is. Local law introductory number 10 is establishing the salary level for Chautauqua County Clerk.
So the Salary Review Commission again recommended a change for the county clerk that effective January 1st, 2026, the annual salary of the county clerk shall be increased by $17,880. Again, this represents half of the difference between what our current clerk makes currently and what the average clerk pay is.
Same 4 counties?
No, so this was, of the 14 comparable counties, 9 had reported their updated information for a county clerk. So
Okay.
this is between 9 counties.
Wow. Thanks.
Oh, just for information purposes, I cared at the last meeting, so somebody might care at this meeting. The current county executive salary is $111,420. And the current clerk salary is $66,853, if you're keeping score at home. I didn't write those down, I memorized them when these.
Any other questions, comments related to the clerk's salary? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next local law. It's introductory local law number 11 is establishing a salary level for Chautauqua County Sheriff.
So again, the Salary Review Commission recommended that effective January 1st, 2027, because of the election cycle, the annual salary of the county sheriff shall be $110,831.
Why is this one titled a little different in the sense that it's
Oh.
not showing the increase, but it's just telling what's it an increase of?
Okay, I got the wrong one. Sorry, I was reading off the wrong one, so, this one, the sheriff shall be increased by $10,355. Again, it's looking at that $10,355 is half the difference between what our sheriff makes and what comparable sheriffs make. I read off an old one.
No, and I have that old one actually in my packet. So what is what's your new one say? Will the new salary, well, maybe Bob has that information.
Oh,
So
the
new
current salary?
really- Yeah, so it'll
Current
be.
salary is $100,476.
It'll go to 110.
So it'll go to 110,831. Okay. Questions,
Well,
comments?
so, and what this will do is, the salary, whatever the salary will be as of January 1st, 2027, will be increased by his 10,000. Between now and that time, there'll be cost of living CPI increases. So you can't take the current salary right now and just add the 10,000, and it'll be the salary. So in 2025 and 2026, unless CPI takes a weird turn downwards, there should be increases. And so whatever the salary is as of January 1st, 2027, that will be increased by the 10,355.
Is the proposed local law different in the packet?
It's, in this packet it is, in the
So
admin
in that-
services.
Oh, I
it
see
was-
that okay, so do you all have one that says what
Mine
the
says
salary will be?
110,831.
Okay.
I just use my administrative
Administrative,
services.
so that was right, so it must not have been
That one is
updated.
correct, so the packet is, this one is incorrect. I think that's what
Even though this was pre-filed.
Olivia is looking into right now.
Yeah, it should just state the increase, not
Yeah,
Right,
it
what the
should,
increase
yes, that the
salary will
county
be.
sheriff shall be increased by $10,355.
Right. Okay. Right, so it's, yes, so it was on, so it's properly filed. Right, so there was a little confusion, so what was sent out to the legislators, within the timeframe for the local law to be presented was correct. So in the package you received, unfortunately what was put in the pre-file and printed was the incorrect one. Admin services was correct. The one in front of you today is unfortunately incorrect. But again, it was received by all the legislators in your email, the correct one. And so it should reflect, and then the full agenda. The one on the website is correct. So just unfortunately, this packet had the incorrect one.
So the clerk sent an email to all the legislators with all of the local laws, and that was the one that was correct.
Correct.
I don't know, I'm looking at my email now, and it says 110,831.
It was updated.
You got me another one?
Yep.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
We can consider it the one that is correct, and just that we can all throw that one out and put a new one in front of us. I made the adjustments, so we should be correct. Question, what is the current salary for the undersheriff?
Oh, you're gonna make me dig.
I remember making an adjustment, and I have a kind of an idea of what it goes up to, but I believe it's up to 105,000 or 102, kind of rings a bell. So,
So I have 2023
Okay.
numbers for the undersheriff,
Okay.
essentially 105.
okay,
104,999.96.
so 105.
105.
So currently, this is one of my previous comments and the other one to adjust this review commission. But so currently, the undersheriff can make more than the sheriff, if that's what his or her salary would be, is at the top of that. And what's the bottom of that range? Do you have, I mean, just because it's.
That I do not
Okay.
have.
But assuming that the undersheriff would have the ability to make that, probably they would. Because they'd have to time in. So, just wanted that point made. This is a good one to lay that example out. Any other questions, comments? I didn't want to bring up the assistant county executive because they're all present in the room. The sheriff's at least missing today. So. Any other questions, comments?
So should we raise the sheriff or lower the undersheriff? I'm just kidding.
It's up for debate. We can handle that one on the floor at a full legislation meeting. Any other questions, comments? Not hearing any, we'll move on to the next local law. It's number 12. It's a local law amending local law 7-99, establishing salary levels for Chautauqua County legislators.
And based on the recommendation of the Salary Review Commission, the suggestion is that effective January 1st, 2026, the annual salary for the county legislators, shall be $14,732. So this is setting what the actual salary will be as of January 1st, 2026. Then the following positions that are listed there, those are what currently are, and those will remain. Those will not change. It's just the salary was suggested to be changed.
Questions, comments? I think the conversation can be put in correlation with everything that I think the commission did a good job on all their recommendations, and I think that the commission saw that these raises were needed, and that's why we had the commission put forth. And I'm glad that I'm seeing them in front of me today so that we can promote future people in the community to put their name out for a legislator position. Yeah, I think that it'll be helpful. Any other questions, comments? Go on to the next introductory of local law number 13. It's a local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter, amending section 4.7.
So this is the recommendation of the Salary Review Commission. This is an amendment to the charter, so this again will require 2/3 vote at the full body next Wednesday. What this does is essentially you can see the change in language, the crossouts or underlines, adds the county legislators to what's currently in the charter already, that by default they'll have an increase to their salary according to the CPI for the prior calendar year. Also, this renumbers the provision. As you know, this has kind of gone in order, these local laws. Previously, we took out some old language, and so we're renumbering this section as well, just to reflect, so we don't have a gap in a missing number. That's a minor thing, but the major thing, again, is adding the county legislators to what's already in the charter, the CPI increase. And again, that's a default. This body does have the ability to override that default by passing a local law, as indicated in the beginning of that, before July 1st, which actually sets the salary. So this goes in order, so if you set and agree with a previous local law that sets the salary for the county legislators, that kind of overrides the CPI at this point. So on January 1st, 2026, the salary of the legislators will be that $14,000. If you don't do anything else, then the CPI will be the default increase.
Questions, comments?
Keeps it from getting out of hand.
One string pulls another. Hearing no other comments or questions, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is number 12. It's the renew and amend Resolution 31023 as amend the capital project accounts, Jamestown Community College.
Good morning. Jennifer Swan, Budget Director for Chautauqua County. What you have before you is a renew and amend resolution. The initial resolution, we didn't realize it, but initially the first version was taking funding out of a revenue stream that was meant to be bonded. And unfortunately, that would be, doing that would be far more complicated than simply doing a budget amendment. So we had to restructure the original resolution and get that funding from another source. So that's what this resolution does.
What did they pull from this time?
I'm sorry?
What did they pull from this time?
There's a revision.
This one's been revised as well? Oh.
Or, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that one is, that is the revised copy.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so what they did was they increased the amount that they're taking out of one of the other projects from the initial resolution instead of taking it out of a second project as well.
Okay.
So,
There was money in that to be able to do that.
yes.
They're probably shortchanging them in themselves in that account is what my,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's essentially, their decision as to how dire any of those projects are at this point, and if they prioritize one project above another and they have the funding to move within them, obviously that is their choice to do so. And it is, the county's decision if they decide to grant any requests for additional funding. So,
questions, comments? We don't have to vote on this today. We will be voting on it at the regular meeting next week.
Yes,
So,
sir.
other questions? We'll move on to our next item. So, thank you.
excellent. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is number 13. It's proposed resolution authorizing purchase of CCIDA bonds. This must be a pretty important one. We have a lot of people to introduce.
I know. Well, I don't know what kind of questions we're gonna get, but,
You should have a spotlight.
yeah. So I'm Mark Geis. I'm the Deputy County Executive for Economic Development, and I'm the CEO of the IDA. I'm joined by Steve Abdallah, who was the county attorney for a few years and is now in private practice. Rich Dixon, who's been the CFO at the IDA for about 20 years. And of course, Kitty Crow, our finance director. So we're here today to talk about the Ripley shovel-ready site and the county purchasing a bond from the IDA to cover the cost of the grant, really, that we received from the state of New York. So as you're well aware, we've been working on creating a shovel-ready site in Ripley for, it goes way back, but the last effort's been the last 5 years, really working hard on that. It's about 146 acres. It's a $16 to $17 million project between acquiring all the parcels. There's 4 different property owners, 7, 8, 9 parcels, a road that's being stubbed in, hopefully. About a 3,000-foot road with water and sewer also being stubbed in. We've done a lot of due diligence, and we applied for funding through the Fast New York program through Empire State Development, and we were awarded a $5.25 million grant to assist with it, but it's a reimbursable grant, so we have to spend the money first, get the project done, and then we get reimbursed. This is not uncommon for the county to purchase IDA bonds. It's been done many times in the past with other projects and other economic development projects. And according to, or pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law, the IDA is authorized to issue these bonds, and the county is also authorized to purchase these bonds. A little bit more about the background, why this site, why are we doing this? You know, Newmark, Invest Buffalo Niagara did an effort back in 2019. They hired Newmark Frank, which is a big site selector, to take a look at our region and look at the sites that we had and look at the buildings that we had. And they concluded that this region is woefully deplete of adequate shovel-ready sites. And there's been a big push since then. Of course, the governor built into her budget $200 million into the Fast New York program to help communities to create these shovel-ready sites. And one of the things that they concluded that there needs to be more sites for warehousing, distribution, logistics. And that site on Shortman Road, right off the thruway, is ideal, an ideal location. They also came out and looked at sites in our county and all through the region and concluded this was one of their top priority sites. So for those reasons, we were successful in being awarded this grant. It's sort of like a loan, if you will, to the IDA to get this project done and then get reimbursed from the state. I don't know if you want to add to that, Steve?
Yes, I'll just clarify. I was asked by Mark Geist to come today, and also Patrick Slagle, and because it's the county, I'm here as a volunteer.
We really appreciate that.
But you know, this tool has been used by the IDA and the county in the past to partner on various projects. It's happened in many different formats. In this case, as Mark may have mentioned, this particular grant from the state is not reimbursable until the end of the project. There's a chance, they're still in conversations, that they might get some draws during the project, but in either case, it's a cash flow issue for the IDA. They have to front the money for the projects and complete at least certain stages of it before the state will reimburse them. So, as was discussed last night at Planning and Economic Development, this will be, in essence, a line of credit. The term of the bond will allow for the IDA, as needed, to draw on the money. And as Mr. Dixon will reference, they will only draw on it when they need it, because they don't want to pay any more interest than they have to. So it won't be a matter of $5.25 million will be issued if this resolution were to pass. They will only use it as they need it. So what was also discussed last night in terms of what security there would be for this line of credit, there would be a mortgage given to the county as security for repayment, although, you know, it's as certain as you can have. I mean, in this context, I mean, the state of New York is going to sign a grant agreement committing to these funds. If you follow the rules of the grant, you will be reimbursed. But nonetheless, there would be a mortgage for security, and you know, I think, in essence, the full faith and credit of the IDA would also be given for this obligation. So I think that's sort of the summary of it from a legal perspective.
I agree with everything Steve and Mark have said, and we'll work with Kitty to make sure that the rate that we propose on the bond that we all agree to would be attractive to the county, it'd be attractive to us. Just a win-win for, I believe, for the county and the IDA, and it continues to send the message of the county supporting this project and being behind it. That means more than I can tell you to a developer who sees that the county's behind it and the IDA's behind it and everyone's in favor of it. It means a lot, it really does. So I'm excited about moving forward. And as I stated last night, I wouldn't recommend to Mark that we borrow this money from the county unless I'm sure we can pay it back. So I think we're in good shape.
You want to say anything?
Yeah.
Cindy?
I think you guys already said it all, but
I
it
think-
looks like Bob has a question, so.
The 5.25 million, I assume that's paying for and if you answered this already, answer it again, please.
Yeah.
Infrastructure, does that include any buildings or?
No.
No structures, we're just
No.
getting it ready for,
Yep, I mean, there's so many different aspects to this. Obviously, the road, the water, the sewer, also extending electric. So that's a big chunk of that 16 to 17 million dollars. So that would pay for infrastructure.
so when we say shovel ready, that means they come and build their building
Yeah.
and they're ready to hook up.
Yeah, and you know, it's more
As
than
best
just
as-
what infrastructure's there. It's all the due diligence, all of the environmental, the historic preservation, SHPO review, the geological surveys, the wetlands delineation. So there's a generic environmental impact statement that's already been filed with a negative deck. And then as long as the new development that comes in fits within the constraints of what we've pictured that we want there, then they wouldn't have to go through all that. It's already done.
Sure.
So it gets them closer to being able to put that shovel in the ground versus a virgin site.
I guess I was just wondering where we ended with that, so,
Yeah, that's it.
got it.
That portion of that is important in the sense that if a business is looking to put in a big structure there, and then they're putting in a bunch of blacktop, a big hurdle a lot of times is getting all those permits, and then also the what they intend to do with the water runoff, right? Because now instead of water seeping through the existing ground and just settling into the watershed that's naturally there, they have now hardened the whole surface, so it's running off of that area somewhere else. So they don't want to make a neighbor mad, or also they're going to be washing whatever's on top of that blacktop into the watershed. And so that's an important aspect of the project that will be completed, and hopefully a hurdle that will be hurdled over for someone coming to look at that. When is the shovel-ready site going to be estimated to be completed and be available for?
I think realistically, we're probably looking at late 2025.
Mhm.
It's gonna take a couple of years. There's still a lot of work to be done between the engineering, the RFPs being issued, getting the work underway, extending the electric. We have an electric study that's underway right now. So I'm thinking realistically.
Are you in a position to be able to promote the properties yet? I mean, are you far enough along to, takes a couple of years to plan for something, so I'm sure there's companies now looking for property that really would be ready in a couple of years, so.
Yeah, this has been a site that has been on, we've offered it up over the years, even though it was privately held. And there's reason why it wasn't attractive to developers, because it's taken us 5 years to get to this point, and they don't wanna wait 5 years, and all the time and effort and money that it takes. So, I would say that we're not gonna start marketing it maybe until maybe a year from now, really start hitting it hard. When we know, we can see it, it's coming together, we sort of know, we're gonna know our timelines better. So I don't wanna false advertise about when we think
Sure.
it's gonna be ready, too soon.
It's just myself being a farmer down in that area, I mean, at a top price, the value of 146 acres is less than $1 million. So you've got $14 million of a whole bunch of stuff added to it, not including asphalt, or not including parking lot. studies, power, sewage. Wow.
Virgin farmland is not worth a lot of money. But,
And that's not particularly good
but
ground.
land that's ready to go, that has all the infrastructure, it's zoned correctly, has all that due diligence already done, it's worth a lot more than virgin land.
Sure, in terms of a worse side, I'm just blown away by how much it actually costs to
it
get
does,
it
it's costly.
from farmland.
Yep.
And, I mean, physically, you've done sewer, water, and then the rest of it is regulation stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's an access road.
So there's gonna be a bit of a road there.
In there, the electrical is huge. It's a big portion of it.
I mean, I guess you've got that in the document somewhere as to
Yeah.
what that breaks down. I'd be just interested, because that's a big number.
Yeah, it's never cheap, and, I just came back from a conference in Albany last week, and, big topic of conversation was shovel-ready sites. And everyone's talking about what it costs to get them ready. It's really expensive. But if you're gonna be in the game, you gotta have them.
One, one company looking at doing a shovel-ready site has a certain percentage of that cost that they have right up front, and also the hassle of doing it all, they gotta dedicate people to do it all. And so if the site's ready, they can say, yeah, okay, that's the cost of it. They can build it into their model, and the site's ready, the work's done. You guys have done that, and that's the benefit of doing this. And eventually, we'll get the gain, and we'll receive that return in our investment. And also, the greater return is the company coming in and putting jobs here, putting trucks there that are buying gasoline, anything, stimulating our local economy. So hopefully in 15 years from now, we can all say that was a good idea. And hopefully 5 years from now, the state comptroller's office, when they look at this, say, yeah, you did it all correctly. So as long as we have that insurance, I'm okay with this. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All those other conditions are in item 3 here.
Next guy's gonna be doing the lines. Next proposed resolution today is to amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer Districts. There is a different version that is on everybody's desk in front of you. It has not been amended yet. You can introduce yourself, and then you can explain why we need to amend it, and then we can amend it if that's what we need to do, and then we can discuss.
Very well. My name is Tom Walsh. I'm the director of the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. We're looking at the 2023 budget, and we're increasing the appropriate counts and decreasing the appropriate counts all within my operating budget. So the 3 accounts, we were deficient in funds, and we were able to cover it in other accounts. So it's the story of the good news and the bad news. Bad news is we're insufficient. Good news is we have the money within the budget to cover as we go forward.
Anyone have questions, comments? The overages were due to vacancies?
Actually, the largest one that you're looking at in .8, it was a Gatsby account, which was
Yes, it did.
designed by the state. That was
Right,
one of the
right.
largest insufficient, what we had budgeted, and then it came back, and that was what, probably the largest percentage of that is what we had to cover through.
Any other questions, comments? I would entertain a motion if someone would be willing to make the amendments so that are stricken out from the differences of the one to the next. So there's an amended version that.
Yes, I'll make a motion to amend.
In a second?
Here.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Any discussion on this new amended version? If not, all those in favor of the resolution as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is the amended 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Portland, Pomfret, Dunkirk Sewer District. And this one has a similar story in the sense that it also has an amended version in front of us.
Matt Olbeck, Director, Portland, Pomfret, Dunkirk Sewer District. Similar to Tom's, we had a couple accounts we needed to increase, and we are able to increase them within the budget by decreasing a couple other accounts. The overages were due to $573 due to
That's the two of them,
postage
right?
for a couple public hearings that weren't not figured in. And the other is an insurance election change for an employee.
Your changes aren't as much as Tom's. I like yours better.
I like my numbers too. They're smaller than his.
Questions, comments? Same sort of order of procedure, if someone would be willing to make an
I'll make a
adjustment for the
motion
amendments.
to amend it.
In a second,
Second?
all those in favor, please say
Aye.
aye.
All right.
Opposed? Carried. So any other discussion or comments on the amended version? Not hearing any, I'd entertain a motion, sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Next resolution today is to authorize the federal and state aid applications for the Chautauqua County Dunkirk Airport 5-year capital improvement plan.
Good morning, Tim Carr, Director of Public Facilities. Shannon's not able to be here this morning, so I'm filling in for her, but this first one, resolution is for, as you said, the federal aid state application for the 5-year county improvement plan for the Dunkirk Airport.
This improvement plan has been discussed in, put in front of the commission, correct? The airport
Yeah.
commission? Are you on the airport
I am
commission?
not.
Mr.
Wolfong.
Mr. Wolfong is now on the commission. He's not here today. Questions, comments? This list,
Typo.
there's projects that are on here.
Yeah,
Is-
these projects in 2024 are already, in process. The easement, the acquisition, security gates, those projects are already underway. And then the following projects for the upcoming years.
Is avigation a new word to me?
What's that?
Is avigation a new word to me, or is it a typo? Right, fiscal year 2014, first land/easement acquisition update existing you mean navigation?
Or should it be aviation?
It's navigation,
Navigation.
aviation.
I believe that's a correct term, avigation.
Avigation?
Yes.
Wow.
Avigation easements.
Easements?
Okay.
You have to
Thank
get an easement that you're not physically on the ground, but you have to have an easement that
For your
the
ILS.
structures
Right.
that can be on that ground to allow the air,
Radio waves or whatever to
Yep.
propagate out.
Thank you, Peter.
New word. And I'm a pilot.
Do you have an outside agency assist in the improvement plan, or look at the buildings, the sites at all, or is it all done in-house?
No, they have a consultant that we deal with. Riley, help me.
I'm sorry.
The the consultant that we're currently using, is it Passero?
Passero.
Yeah.
Okay. They come out and assess the facility as much and kind of make some recommendations. Obviously, you probably have more in a 5-year plan put in place, I'm sure.
Yeah, Shannon she does it every, she just done one here not too long ago, where the airport's open and they come up and they lay the whole 5-year plan out and explain everything that they're gonna do.
Okay.
That was open to the public.
Okay. Every time that something comes in front of me, I like to ask a few new questions, and it was yours today, so
Yeah.
lucky you, huh? Now I know I won't have to answer them in 5, or ask you again in 5 years. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carried. Carried. Next proposed resolution is authorize federal and state aid applications for the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport 5-year capital improvement plan, fiscal year 2024 to 2028.
Yeah, this is the same type of application, except this is for the Jamestown Airport. And again, with the projects being listed below for the current year and the upcoming years.
Do you utilize the same outside agency?
Yeah. Yep.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is the budget year-end reconciliations environment landfill. There has been, there is in front of us a different version of this that already has been amended, so we will be discussing the resolution that has been amended already.
Chad Marks, Deputy Director of Finance. Much like everybody else that's gonna be sitting in front of you today, we ran into a little bit of a budget issues where some of our accounts were a little bit over, and but we were fortunate enough to have appropriation accounts that were under budget that we could pull from to cover them. Much the same what happened here.
Questions, comments? Question for Chad. You are currently an employee of the finance department that has been collaborated. How's that transition gone for you, and in sense of being able to conduct your normal everyday business? Has that transition gone fairly smoothly, or is it still learning?
No, well, still learning. A lot to pick up with the DPF side of things, with the A fund, the D fund, and so on. But everybody's been helpful, working through things. We do have some hurdles, just kind of getting people in places that need to be in places, and otherwise, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Good. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is number 19. It's amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, public facilities, A fund, and there's also a amended version in front of us, and we will be discussing that amended version.
Pretty much the same thing. Again, over in some of the accounts, the appropriation accounts, due to little, some additional expenses on some projects that we didn't anticipate, the column replacement here at GOB being one of them. But again, fortunate enough to not have to tap into any revenues or any of that kind of thing. We had appropriation accounts that we could pull from to cover that.
What Mr. Marks is trying to say is it is a budget neutral resolution.
Thank you, Jen.
Did you hire more people than you thought, or there's some personnel services and employee benefits that are, those are,
You're looking at the carts
Yes.
allocations? Carts, traditionally, most of the drivers being substitutes. There is time that a lot of them, if they go over hours,
Mhm.
they are offered benefits, and it's just additional payroll expenses for that.
yeah. Is that a lack of just being able to find the full-time positions, or is it, why do we have the overage there? I'm just curious why it leads to that.
I think it is the inability to find additional drivers.
Mhm. And you were able to pull that from other,
Correct. The Parks
Yeah.
Department had additional.
yeah, I
some
guess
additional
it
revenue
wasn't
to cover
anything,
A little bit of that, some of the contractuals from other.
wasn't necessarily right from the carts department itself, but.
Right.
Correct.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, carried. Next proposed resolution is number 20. It's budget year-end reconciliations for public facilities, a defund.
Same story, over the summer appropriations, and we had enough left over in payroll due to not having the employees that we would have liked to have had, but we had that additional benefit, or the additional money left over to cover the expenses of the rest of the department.
Were you able to do some more maintenance of roads this year? Or is it just, was it more work or just more expensive
More
work?
expensive, and as far as materials and things go, the increase of costs.
Mhm. The engineering portion, the personnel services and the engineering, is that engineering position a shared position? Or is that and what's the overage in that certain area? I know we've had some discussion about the engineers in the last couple of years.
That, to my understanding, again, being new to this whole part of it, is we allocated a certain amount of money to come back from the state funding, federal funding that we get for these particular road and bridge projects. So we allocate payroll allocations to that, fringe allocations to that. It was a little bit higher than what was anticipated. It has been reduced for the 2024 budget. We did eliminate there was a position that was no more, so that's cutting into that too.
Okay.
I'm sorry, is this?
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Hey,
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution is authorized agreement for advance payment for New York State DOT bridge project.
This is a project, the New York State DOT has a culvert replacement in the town of Clymer, which is on State Route 474 in North Clymer, just east of North Clymer a little bit. And we have a forest property next to that location, and they would like just a little bit of space so they can replace that pipe and do what they have to do there, and for a whole whopping $60.
Questions, comments?
Go for it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is budget year-end reconciliations for the county clerk.
Emily Blevins, Deputy County Clerk. So as with everybody else, we overspent in certain accounts and underspent in others, and we're just moving it around to even it out. Any questions?
Just reviewing some numbers. Questions, comments, anyone?
Again, budget neutral. We like that.
The overages in the personal services for the county clerk and motor vehicles, is it just due to vacancies that are there?
Correct, yes. We had some turnover, and then certain positions we were having trouble refilling. Other positions we found we didn't need to refill them yet. And then we've also had a contractual overage with weights and measures, which is typically due to certifying their equipment. We didn't need to do that last year, and we didn't need to buy as much new equipment as we did the year before. So we actually lowered that budget account for 2024 as well.
Good. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is the amended 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations legislature.
Okay. Olivia Lee, Clerk of the Legislature. Okay. The A1010 and A1040 accounts are both slightly over budget. There is $1,279 in total that we're unable to cover with funds from overages and other legislature accounts. So we are requesting the use of fund balance to cover these costs, which, as you can see, can be contributed to employee benefits.
Just hurtful to pull from the fund balance, huh? Even on this own department. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is number 24, is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations unified courts.
Good morning. Jennifer Swan, Budget Director for Chautauqua County. The Unified Courts is just, I think this is somewhat typical. There's minimal overages in some of the .4s for some of those accounts. Again, this is another budget neutral resolution. We were able to amend within the Unified Courts departments.
Pretty minimal effects. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations health insurance fund.
Good morning, Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. The M fund is the fund where we record all of our expenses related to the health insurance plan. And we did have some overrun in our administrative costs, but are offset by some of the others underspending in the benefit surcharge category. This is just one amendment this month. I just want to give a heads up for next month. We will have some additional amendments because there's still some transactions being posted back to 2023. So I'll have another amendment next month for the committee. So.
I suppose we can let a couple more slide in. Got a few of them right in a row here.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution is amended 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations energy fund.
Okay. There were some additional permit fee expenses in the energy plant fund that were not planned, and those are offset by interest earnings that were in excess of what was estimated in the budget.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution is the amended 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations insurance liability, the CS fund.
Okay. The CS fund is the fund where we capture all of our costs associated with our liability insurance policies. So there's a variety of policies: cybersecurity, medical malpractice, general liability, vehicles, insurance, etc. So we did have a few items that went over budget. There's a couple of things to explain here. So the first, I'll just go through the increases and then I'll go through how these items are offset. So under judgments and claims, the 29,000 increase appropriation is for additional legal settlements that were in excess of what was included in the budget. Property loss, so that $808,000 is made up mainly of two areas. One was an instance of fraud that was committed against the county in 2023. The other is related to the flood that was in the HRC building. We had some additional, that was back in late 2022, but we had some additional expenses in 2023 to complete that. So there, for both of those items, we do have some offsetting insurance recoveries related to them under revenue. So for the HRC building expenses, there was $449,000 in insurance recoveries, but the net expense was about $15,000 to the county. With respect to the fraud incident, we were able to recover $185,000, with the help of the sheriff's investigators as well as the district attorney's office. They were able to track down the perpetrator and recover those funds. But there was a net expense of unrecovered that we were not able to recover, and that was about $158,000. And then the other item
Question
under
on just that particular portion? We have
Pardon?
Just a question on that particular portion before you move on. Obviously, the incident happened and it took place, but what measures do we have do we have any measures to protect ourselves from a future endangerment to that nature?
Yeah, so this particular incident was related to somebody posing as a vendor and having their direct deposit information changed. They submitted what looked like very credible request for their direct deposit information to be changed, and we do our normal course of action, which was followed at the time, was to have more than one person review that, and it passed 2 reviews because that's how credible it looked. So we have, so what happened is that the direct deposit information was changed, then an invoice was paid. It was a sizable invoice because it happened to be a vendor that was doing a construction project for us. A few weeks later, the same vendor tried to change their direct deposit information again, and that is what raised the flag in our department to say that seems unusual. They just changed their direct deposit information. So we contacted the vendor to see if they had received the payment that we had sent out, and they had not. So we immediately, we contacted the sheriff's office, we contacted our banks. We immediately pulled we used to have our direct deposit change form posted on our website, so we took that down same day. And we revised our normal procedures to, that the vendor has to contact us directly, verbally. We call them back separately to verify any changes to direct deposit information. So rather than anyone just getting the form off of our website and submitting it, we're no longer doing that. So we've tightened the controls around that particular type of fraud.
Do you
It
believe?
does, I'm sorry.
Do you believe that you will be able to recover any of that 158,000 at any
No.
point in time, or
No,
is it?
we, so through, our combined, we realized an opportunity when they contacted us the second time to change their direct deposit information. So working with the sheriff's investigators, we kind of, I'll say, strung them along that, okay, yes, we made your change. And then they replied back by email, when's the next invoice going to be paid? And we said, oh, it'll be next week. But we only sent a small amount of money so that the sheriff and the DA could subpoena those bank accounts, and then they could track back to where the money actually was sent, and there was still money in that account, and that's how they were able to recover the $185,000 that they did. We did check with our insurance to see if they would cover any of residual loss, and that didn't really fall under our cybersecurity policy. So that is an expense that we'll have to bear ourselves. But jumping ahead, in terms of the offsets, I am proposing to use our insurance reserve to cover that loss, as well as the additional legal settlements that we incurred in 2023, as well as the net of the HRC expenses that we had related to that flood. So we do have about $2 million in our insurance reserve. Because these were one-time incidences, I proposed in this resolution to utilize the reserve for those expenses. Otherwise, what we would need to do is any expenses incurred in the CS fund are ultimately allocated back to all county departments, so that would then be a charge back to departments if we weren't going to use the reserve for these items. But again, because these were one time, it's kind of what our reserve is for, that my recommendation would be to utilize that reserve to cover those items.
Question, this is an ACH?
Pardon?
Was this an ACH transaction?
A direct deposit, yeah.
Doesn't the bank have liability for knowing who their customers are? So because it's the bank that launches the ACH, and they have then told you that ABC company account belongs to ABC, when in fact it doesn't. Can we pursue that, the bank who?
Well, no, that's what when the district attorney issued the subpoenas, they were able to track back to the bank, but there was only so much money in that account, so.
No, that's what's in the account, but the bank has a fiduciary duty that when they tell you that this is going to the benefit of company ABC, that it's in fact company ABC.
I'm not.
I think. Again, I don't know exactly, obviously, the details of your transaction, but.
But this was our payment this was us paying them.
Yeah, but it went into not the company you thought it was going, right?
Correct, but we were the ones that selected that bank account because, it wasn't like the bank sent it to the wrong account or anything like that. We sent it to that bank account.
Right.
By our own choice.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
But when a bank opens an account in the name of ABC Company, the bank has a legal duty to make sure it is in fact the ABC Company's account.
Correct, but the name on, I don't think the bank necessarily looks at it as like the name of the account holder. They're looking that we sent it to this account number. But, I mean, we can look into it further, but this has risen to the level of, the FBI continuing to investigate this operation that, because they did discover other incidents to other entities, so, I guess on one hand, we are fortunate enough to be able to recover some of the funds.
'Cause that's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, and, you know, this was the first incident of something like that we've had. We do get requests fairly routinely that appear to be from employees seeking, direct deposit changes, but those ones you can kind of see, it's more clear that it's fraud, you know, it's from kind of a bogus email address and things like that, but we've never really had one that's happened where it was appearing to be a vendor, so.
If I could, you know, really what this is a testament to is the cyber crimes that are happening and the diligence that we have been performing. When Kitty brought this to my attention, we were at a NISTAC conference, was speaking to another county. Within a week, they had the same thing happen to them through another, a pass-through agency. But as Kitty said, this type of crime has been happening more to counties across the state because it's just somehow we're a target. So Kitty got on this immediately, but again, unfortunately, this is what criminals have resorted to. So I think to her point, I can't speak to the bank, but I think, you know, what the bank is concerned of is, are we sending the money, is it a viable account, you know, with the bank? So unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. But trust me, this has been plaguing Kitty for a long time. She was very upset about it when she contacted me, and we have been diligently working and again, reaching out. But I just hate to say we were one of several entities in a short period of time when this happened.
I mean, private sector, you know, fraud by false vendors is, I mean, as old as the hills, and it's kind of one of number one, number two sources against stung.
Well, in terms of the bank's liability, the account may very well have been not in ABC company name, may have been an XYZ company name. So the bank opened an account for a company.
Sure.
And then
It really was that
the
company.
number that was given was just the number, the bank account number.
Right.
And we sent the money to that bank account number, and the bank didn't know what company it was supposed to go to, just to that account number.
Yeah, and if they did it that way, then I think the bank's off the hook.
I believe so, yeah.
If they falsified the ABC company name, the bank has a federal duty to know who their customers are.
Yes.
You know, transferring money certainly makes it easier to conduct business sometimes, but there's something about a check, right? You can mail a check to ABC Construction Company that did the work, or whatever, and less fraud, I think, with the check. But it's a give and take, you know, it's really difficult, and unfortunately, criminals
Money
are
laundering thing.
shrewd too, and they figure out a way to get it until we fix it. And that's why I asked the question, is if we've made some proper changes internally to hopefully try to mitigate this sort of thing again. It's probably not foolproof because, you know, criminals are smart too, and they're evolving just as much as we are, so.
Yep.
Just sad.
I had a similar occurrence in business, and when I approached the bank, in business, you had a 3-day time period to catch it. Personally, you had a 30-day. And that frustrated me because I wasn't every 3 days checking.
Yeah.
But they stuck to it because I protested one, and they said, no, you've exceeded the 3-day limit. And I'm like,
I think it's 48 hours now. It's because the money's gone.
yeah.
It's moved. I've had it happen twice, both innocently,
Yeah.
but it happened.
It's good that we're correcting it.
Yes. The additional administrative costs that were over the budgeted amount, the 58,000, that was just due to a variety of premiums. There's about a dozen or so different premiums that are policies that are paid in net, that was the amount in excess of what was budgeted for our premiums. So that, though, is offset by charges back to county departments, so that, for the most part, balances out. We did have some additional interest earnings So, the interest earnings are applied to those, you know, 3 items, one-time items, and then the balance, to be offset is $142,000, which is proposed to come from the CS, insurance reserve.
Any other questions, complaints? To Kitty.
Have they tied an individual to this fraud? Have they caught anybody?
My last update is that they were going to be interviewing somebody, but the account was like down in South Carolina or something like that. But I mean, the investigator and the district attorney they've kind of given us sporadic updates on it, but like I said, it had gone to the FBI level in investigating this.
Okay.
After it gets to be so much money, it's an alert for certain. It
Yeah.
radiates it to a federal crime, you know.
It's interstate. yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed?
sadly so.
Carried. Next proposed resolution is amend the budget year-end reconciliations for the finance.
Okay, so this is, a few items here where we were over and under budget. For the finance department, personnel services, we, you know, due to the fiscal restructure, as we had some vacancies that were, occurring during 2023, and rather than hire them in the department and then transfer them later for those vacancies, we just posted the position and hired it under the finance department. So, for the most part, that's why, I mean, I shouldn't say for the most part, that is the reason that, our budget was over in personnel services. So that is able to be offset, by our contractual costs that were under budget. The real property tax had some contractual costs that, exceeded, you know, some, our main contractor, that, assists us with our real property tax system. The 1989 account is our insurance, department, so some additional costs there, that are offset by, the 3 items, the total of the 3 items below. So, we did have, we underspent in our contractual costs in the finance department. Real property tax had some personal services that were under budget, and that was due to a vacancy related to, a person who had resigned during the year. And then in insurance, we had a small amount of savings in the, sorry, I guess that's a typo there. In the 1989, it says 0.8, and then it says contractual. That should say, employee benefits instead of contractual. I missed that.
We can consider that being a typo. And I guess to be clear too, there is an amended version. I forgot to say that when I read this, and we are looking at the version that has already been amended. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Are you doing the miscellaneous one as well, Kitty?
Yes.
Okay. I do anticipate taking a small recess after, is this your last one in line?
I
So
believe so.
we'll do your miscellaneous one. So next proposed resolution is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations miscellaneous.
This one's
Going to.
a little more complicated, so I color-coded which the offsets are to each other. Because department miscellaneous is just that, it's a lot of miscellaneous expense and revenue of the county. So I'll just go by the color-coded items to let you know what's offsetting what. So in a 1330 roll, that account is used to record expenses of the property tax office for their preparation of other municipalities' tax rolls. So just a slight increase in personnel and employee benefits there, and that's offset by the contractual in that same department. So the blue and the blue are offsetting. The next three items in green, as well as the community college a little further down in green. So the 1430 countywide employee expense, that is that cost center is for the CSEA union president. Under that contract, we're required to cover the salary and benefits of that position. And then the community college expenses exceeded the budget by $37,000. So those four items are proposed to be offset down below by an increase in revenue of sales tax revenue. So we do have a surplus of sales tax in 2023. So those four items, and the sales tax is part of department miscellaneous revenue. Let's see, the next two items in orange, that's the municipal sales tax pass through. So we collect all the sales tax, and then the portion that goes to the municipalities is recorded as an expense and a revenue on the county's books. So we have a surplus of sales tax this year, so that's a surplus in their account as well. So that expense and revenue are both greater than what the budget is. So that's to reconcile those two accounts. So then the items in purple, the contingent account. So as you may recall, in the 2023 budget, we did budget for a contingency. So in the contingent account, we included a vacancy savings in the personnel costs, which was a credit amount of and then we included a contingent expense of $230,000 in the contingent account. But we don't record any actual in the contingent account. Usually what we do is we'll reduce that contingent account in order to offset an increase in another county department. So we still have to balance out this account now at the end of the year. So to the personnel services account, the budget was was a credit of $480,000. So we have to increase that to zero, basically. So if we increase that by $480,000, then the budget is zero in that line item. And then to do that, we are going to reduce the budget for the employee benefits by $230,000. And then the other departments there, so those were other county departments where we did see a personnel cost savings, a true vacancy savings. I know you've heard during the year when the county attorney, DA, and public defender have been here to discuss their difficulties in refilling attorney positions. Board of Elections had some vacancy savings, as did the sheriff and the jail. So those were all county departments where we had planned in the budget to have vacancy savings in county departments. Those departments did have vacancy savings. There were other county departments that did have vacancy savings, but a lot of those other bigger departments also have corresponding revenue. So I looked mainly to kind of take a little bit from some of the other departments that don't have an associated, revenue related to it, to kind of spread out the vacancy savings to make up the contingent account. So I know that's a little confusing, but that was the rationale in offsetting the contingent account.
It's a lot of
budget.
work just to get it to be zero, so I get it.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Well,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so you got it to zero, and
Yeah.
we're happy.
So, and just, on a separate note on the vacancy savings, as you know, we had a lot of discussion on that for the 2024 budget. So, looking at, at that time, I had, provided you the prior year's vacancy savings, and which was the basis of, the 2024 budget's vacancy savings and how we did that. So this year we did end up with, it was roughly, I think it was 7 or 8%, in personnel costs that were under budget countywide.
It's approximately 8.6%
Okay,
is where it
yeah.
landed.
So we are still seeing these vacancies, I mean, and really it's just, a trickle down effect from COVID and just kind of getting the county workforce back up to, full staffing. We continue to struggle to, fill positions, but, hopefully by this time next year, we won't have, as much, but normally we might see 3 or 4% on a recurring basis, but the last few years it's been much higher. And I think there's lastly the transfer to capital, so that tan shaded cells there. With the ARPA projects, when the budget was amended at the beginning of this year to transfer the ARPA projects from 22 to 23, we forgot to add the transfer to capital account and revenue. So what happens is as the ARPA funds are spent down, Todd does an entry to recognize the revenue into the capital budget accounts. Each month he'll transfer the money to the capital account and show that ARPA revenue is in the capital budget, the actual. We just hold it in an investment account until it's used. So we just had to show those transactions that had happened. That's all.
I hate to admit it, but the color,
I know, I'm sorry I didn't have it for your committee, Bob.
I was so confused, but now it's crystal clear.
We
with the
could
color.
recommend that for every year-end reconciliation next year.
I don't know if there's enough colors.
Questions, comments?
Very colorful presentation.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll just take a brief 10-minute recess, and we will reconvene in 10:35.
Get back at it.
So,
Gonna take you that long.
I do it all at the end.
So 40 years as a corporate CFO.
At this time, we can reconvene our meeting. And we'll continue on in our proposed resolutions. Next proposed resolution is number 30. It's amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, human resources. They'll catch on.
Do I wait?
Go ahead.
Okay, it's just you and me. You realize that, like, no. Okay. Just go?
Just go.
Okay,
We'll
Debbie
be fine.
Mikowski, Director of Human Resources. So this is, this overage is due to changes in health insurance elections. It is being offset by savings in our personal services costs. Budget neutral.
What I meant.
We just sold the
It's budget neutral.
property next door. Sounds pretty straightforward. Budget neutral is always a good way to finish. Questions, comments?
Yeah, could you go over that again? Because I was not, no, I'm kidding.
She was yelling, and it was
We need a
heard.
gavel.
No other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is to amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, county attorney.
Good morning, Patrick Slagle, County Attorney. What you have before you is a budget neutral resolution. We have had an increase in our expense accounts due mainly to some additional trainings that we're taking advantage of for our attorneys. We had some work done in our office that required the expenses to go up on the contractual side, but we did have savings in personnel. We've been unfortunately struggling with some hiring of our paralegal that saved some money. Additionally, we had taken on the role of taking some DSS legal cases, in which case then they paid for the attorney's salary for that time period in 2023. So we had some savings in personnel services to be able to offset those expenses.
Questions, comments? Patrick had the opportunity to stop into your office area in your department, and in these positions, you're adding people or taking people away. Do you have the room in your area to be able to add on a few extra people or paralegals, or are you running out of room? Do you need more room? So
We're out of, so the part of the big project we did was to create a space for a paralegal eventually. Once that happens, then we're out of room. We want to add more staff, more attorneys to take on the family court cases that would save the county significant money. Unfortunately, we would have no place to put that individual right now. But we'll work with the county executive. There's space throughout the county. We'll get creative as to where to find room. But in the current space, there's not the footprint to add another attorney there. But again, if that person's doing family court, then there's some room, up the hill to allow that to happen. So the first thing is to find the bodies. Once we find them, we'll figure out where to put them.
okay.
That sounded off, but not that, but yes, we'll find office space. We're not looking to put bodies anywhere. Let me rephrase that.
Well, we are. We're looking for more space.
Well, we are,
but,
yes, yes.
Different conversation.
Different conversation. We'll leave this health department. I think the county executive wants to.
If I could, in other, we will bring up a big picture, and I will be able to loop all this in, what Patrick's saying now, what we're talking about with morgue, et cetera. So today and the other, I will bring up a conversation that will hopefully answer a lot of these questions we're going to have.
Okay.
And, again, when we did this project, part of these expenses to increase our footprint a little bit, to have that space, the county executive has been, very willing to allow, us to come up with new ideas. And he's been on this for a while now, looking at different options. So I think moving forward, I think there's a lot of good options out there. So I'm not concerned that there wouldn't be that space. Again, obviously the recruitment and retention is the main issue. We'll figure that out, though, as well.
And if they don't work out, we'll have the morgue space.
It's not what the morgue space.
Mr. Scudder, you had a question, or you were, no?
Nope, I'm good.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution is approved corrective action plan, CAP, for submission of Office of the State Comptroller, OSC. Anyone here to speak to that today?
Action plan?
It's the, yes, action plan for the,
I know, I think Pierre was going to, he's coming back.
Let's take another break.
I see him, he's running.
You want me to introduce somebody comes in? Ladies and gentlemen.
Drum roll.
I believe you're up, Pierre. I'm up.
You're up.
Corrective action plan.
Pierre Chagnon, Chairman of the Legislature. As you are aware, we had a state controller audit of the North Chautauqua County Water District. And as a result of the audit, they came back with suggested improvements in terms of our processes. So we got a group together to work on their recommendations because we are required to respond to their audit with our proposed corrective action plan. So we developed a corrective action plan with consultation from the county executive, the county attorney, the county director of finance, as well as representatives of CBI, the sole customer of the water district, and the municipal leaders who are represented by CBI, the municipal water districts that are represented by CBI. So we developed collectively the corrective action plan that you have in front of you and that we would like to get permission to submit in response to the request from the state controller, the demand from the state controller for a corrective action plan. The corrective action plan, if you will, we took advantage of the opportunity to expand on the recommendations for the water district where they made good sense, to also implement those recommendations for other county water and sewer districts. So this is an example of taking lemons and making lemonade, if you will, that we had an audit. They made some recommendations. Their recommendations were good, appropriate, and we are now using those recommendations in other areas of the county operations.
Questions, comments? I personally was sat in on a state controller interrogation. And you know, the reason they asked a lot of good questions, you know, processes, and the state controller's audit was warranted. I appreciated their work and sense of pointing out some abnormalities that we needed to correct, and I'm thankful that we're correcting them. I think it just also emphasizes the importance of these committees to be able to sit here and ask the questions and hear the information that's put in front of us, because at some point in time we may be questions of why we did it and how, and not that you can remember every one, but you could say, well, we discussed it in committee, you know, so it's important that that's why we have this committee to discuss and to review those and ask as many good questions as we can, and also, that's why the state controller's office comes in and investigates these things as well. And we warrant the second set of eyes on some of these things, so. Questions, comments?
Just good job.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is the setting the salary for law graduate trainee.
Good morning, Patrick Slagle, County Attorney. In our ongoing discussions on recruitment and retention, this is a new position we're looking to set, law graduate trainee. Earlier, we talked about local law for a law graduate position. Again, that was someone, just a refresher, that had graduated from law school pending either taking the exam or the results. What this is looking to bring on someone who's in their second, third year of law school. Again, someone who possesses a wide range of skill and knowledge that we can bring into the county, start teaching them, whether it's the PD's office, the DA's, the county attorney's office, the type of work that's being done, have them interested, and hopefully then, they progress up the steps. They'll graduate from law school, become maybe a law graduate position, pass the bar, then become an attorney. So this is, again, another way to look to recruit people even earlier, rather than saying they're trying to fight for all the different attorneys out there that, well, it's not that many out there right now. So that's the idea, again, just that recruitment retention, bringing people into the county earlier.
Patrick, I'm assuming you worked with the HR department to come up with these figures. I mean, it seems generous. And is that what it's supposed to be?
Yes, it's comparable to what's being offered out there. Again, when you're in law school, really your second and third year, you begin looking for jobs. So you start looking, and some private firms are able to offer significant sums. And so what we're trying to do is, again, recruit those individuals to the county, give them a comparable wage. Of course, then there's also, the benefits, the retirement, the pension that could draw them in as well. But if you can get second, third year law students to come to the county, start learning the processes, they become interested in county service, then hopefully upon graduation, passing the bar, then you have an attorney that's been here, that's been trained up for the past several years, and you're good to go, rather than having to go out there and try to find, a greener attorney that doesn't know the processes or the office. So it is comparable rate.
So it's like a private sector internship.
Essentially, right. Because, again, it's second, third year of law school. You're out there, you're looking for those summer internships, paid internships, hopefully you can get them. And more times than not, when you get into that role, if you get offered an internship, then you end up staying at that place. That's what we've seen. From experience, that's what I did. I was offered an internship. I eventually started paying me. I don't know if they made a mistake or not, but I stayed there. I stayed there for 10 years. That's our goal, is if we could get these individuals in, they could become 10, 15 year, maybe 30 year employees with the county, and it definitely helps out in the long run.
Well, you're also on the other side of the transaction. You get to look at them and decide whether you want to keep them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a win-win for the county. And it gets us that help too, because again, with that second, third year law students, they do have a lot of the skills and knowledge that they can provide. So it's not just, they're not just coming here and just shadow and follow someone around. They'll be doing significant work for the county, and so it's definitely a bonus. As we struggle to get a full attorney, you get one or two of these law graduate trainees. They can do a lot of the research, the letters, the interviews with the clients, that frees up an attorney to do other work that they have to do.
These law graduate trainees are going to be full-time or part-time? In sense, are they going to be, as a law student, I know I have a law student and as nieces and nephews, and they're busy. They're studying the law, and do they have the ability to work a 40-hour week? Well, I don't know, because they're studying a lot and going to school. So
definitely, I think they would be for the most part. Especially during the summers. As things have changed, school schedules are different. Some law students may go 3 days a week and then have time during the week to work. Sometimes work at law schools are more remote classes. And so we look for that full-time, especially during the summer months when they're off and they're looking just to, really get that experience. Law school teaches you about the law, but that hands-on experience of actually how to apply the law is often taught during these types of internships and work programs.
How are you going to be advertising for these positions to get the word out there?
So definitely posting on our website. I know HR is working with our media information officer to kind of update the website to make it a lot more user-friendly, working on new newsletters and postings out there, working with the local law schools. UB is probably the closest, working with UB to let that career services office know. I believe Jason Schmidt actually just went up to UB a couple weeks ago, along with Maddie, to, it was I think it was a career services day, but so they went up there. So our county was up there saying, hey, these are the opportunities we have in the county. And so really working with HR, with our media information officer, really putting the word out there of why Chautauqua County is such a great place to come, really attract the people down here. Then they'll come down here and see what a great place is to live and, hopefully come here, raise a family, and then you have, just by offering this to a law student, you could have a resident here for the next 15, 20 years or more.
Are other counties doing this, or is this kind of an original thing from us?
I'm not sure if other counties are doing it. I would imagine they are. I know a lot of other businesses do, other, nonprofits do this type of offerings. And so it's not unique to us, but if we're the first county to do it, that's great. Let's get ahead of the curve. Let's not wait for other counties to start snatching up the students. Let's do it first.
Good idea, and we need to think creatively and collectively, and I've been asking questions for the last few years, how do we get the people in the seats here and fill the positions? So this is a way, and hopefully it works, and if it doesn't, I want to hear what we're doing in a couple of years to make it work. And getting the word out is key, and then also shortening up, once a law student says, hey, yeah, I want a summer job, but it's already summer, what's the turnaround of them actually putting boots on the ground and working too, so there's a hiring process that has to be considered too. So getting that word out to them in ample time is key, so.
And we, a few months ago, we did the attorney salary adjustments. That's really that retention piece of making sure we keep the people that we have, and it's we can't just come to you and keep asking, keep raising to retain. We have to recruit, and so this is that second piece to get the people here first.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
you.
Next proposed resolution is amend the senior real property tax exemption.
You almost got it.
I was like, come back.
Get you a couch.
Kim Moline, Director of Real Property. Okay, so this is for the senior exemption. In order to qualify for this exemption, you have to be 65 years or older and have currently an income of $22,000 or less. In the previous months, the local assessors have come to me to request an increase in the income. A lot of seniors will be losing this income this year if we do not do it due to their cost of living increase. Their increase in their Social Security isn't going to cover what their taxes are going to be if they lose this exemption. So I did some research. The current average income for seniors in Chautauqua County is around $34,000, which is more than what our income is right now. So we are asking that we increase this to the state maximum again, which is $58,400, so we don't have to keep coming back year after year to make sure our seniors don't lose this. With this exemption, the local municipalities do not have to follow our income. They can increase their income to whatever they choose to. A lot do follow what the county does. As for an impact on taxes this year, there won't be any. We're just hoping to keep the seniors that are on it from losing it. To project forward, we have no idea who is turning 65 in the following years and what their income is, so I can't project any of that. I will state that there is proposed legislation in the state to involving foreclosure that will make it so we can't foreclose on properties that have an aged exemption a disability exemption or a veterans exemption. So if these property residents lose their exemptions, we then will be foreclosing on people and taking their homes from people who've been living there 50, 60 years. So it's important to get this income up so that they don't lose their homes.
And just like the disability exemption that we talked about earlier, the local law, you know, again, we're suggesting raising this to the maximum. I mean, that provides a level of certainty for individuals so that each year you don't have senior citizens wondering if this is the year that they're no longer able to afford the taxes on their home because they may just get outside that range. You know, New York State set this maximum rate, and so, you know, we feel it's right just to go to that maximum rate that they've kind of set, and then this is something that we can revisit then every time New York State changes it, rather than having to make sure every year we bring this forward. If, you know, stuff happens, you know, you think of pandemic stuff that happened in the past, things get missed, you'd hate to miss bringing forward this resolution, and then you have senior citizens who then no longer get the exemption, and now they're facing a potential foreclosure of their home, just because he just got outside that range. So hopefully the idea of setting it to this maximum will give that level of certainty to individuals who really require that.
Is that maximum set statewide, or is it adjusted like the minimum wage that, you know, Manhattan's got one maximum and Chautauqua County's got another?
The state sets the maximum, and each county is able to they can increase it to whatever they want, they just can't exceed the maximum.
Right, but that maximum is a number that the state has calculated across the board, all 60-odd counties.
Yes.
So obviously the cost of living here is way less than the cost of living in Westchester County. Okay, so in real terms, it's a very different number.
Mm-hmm.
What level of savings, and what percentage are these individuals experiencing with this
This exemption is a 50% exemption. So if they
50%.
have a $100,000 assessment, they get $50,000 off their assessment and are only taxed on $50,000.
Okay. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Next proposed resolution is amend the spending plan and 2023 budget for Chautauqua County projects funded by the American Rescue Plan Act.
Good morning, Blake Gehrig, Director of Administrative Services. This resolution is just stating that these various ARPA projects are completed and the corresponding accounts already be closed, whereas majority of these projects came under budget and approximately about $3,700 are going back into the ARPA fund.
Good.
Questions, comments? It's actually pretty close figuring to have them come in this close, honestly.
Yeah.
It really is. And so that just goes to the work that all the departments put into this, that there's not really any huge significant overage or underage here, so that's good.
Yep.
And
All
Mr.
those-
Chairman,
Yeah.
thanks to Blake for his dedicated work working with all of these complicated ARPA projects to make sure that we came out in this result.
Yeah. No, agreed. There's been a lot of work in this whole area, so. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll be hearing from you in a little bit. Got a ways to go. Next resolution is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations probation.
Just discussion about some of the treasury.
Good morning again, Jen Swan, Budget Director. Gilbert Taylor extends his apologies. He was here first thing this morning, but he got called away. So really quickly, this is another budget neutral resolution. We have a slight overage in the employee benefits in the probation department, and I believe that was due to a health insurance election change from the staff. So that is being covered by savings in the personal services, and that's it. Very small amount. So.
Questions, comments? We could make Gilbert drive back if we had a big question.
Vote it down on him.
He'll say, I thought you had it covered.
I did
All
my
those in
best.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Next proposed resolution is authorize acceptance of criminal justice discovery and bail reform funding.
Good morning, committee. Madeline Contiglia from the District Attorney's Office. The resolution I have for you today is to authorize the acceptance of the criminal justice discovery and bail reform funding. I'm sure, as most of you are aware, the bail and discovery laws that changed and came into effect in January 1st of 2020 have resulted in increased expenses for the district attorney's offices, probation departments, and law enforcement agencies across New York State. So the Division of Criminal Justice Services has awarded each county a sum of money to offset those increased expenses due to the discovery and the bail reform funding, bail reform laws. So for this year, this is kind of the third installment of the discovery fund that our county has received. But for this year, we've been awarded $889,225 to be used among the district attorney's office, probation office, sheriff's office, and the local police agencies in Chautauqua County. So we're asking you to accept the funding through from New York State and to also authorize contracts with the probation department, the sheriff's office, and the municipal police agencies for them to be given a portion of the funding. The revenue for the contracts and the agreements with probation and the police agencies were not included in the district attorney's budget for 2024 or probation's budget for 2024. So we'd also like to amend the district attorney's budget and probation's budget while also increasing the revenue accounts for both agencies. So this is a budget neutral resolution.
Madeline, you said this is the third year we've received this?
Yes.
And how long has bail reform been around?
They went into effect in 2020, so right before the pandemic. So they really did not be fully acclimated and kind of, we weren't fully involved in the laws until about 2021. Okay. So the first year we received a sum of money in 2021. Last year we also received a sum of money which was larger than the year before, and then this is the third year we've received it, and it's been a larger sum. We're fortunate enough to be able to use those kind of for many years, for multiple years. So the first year that we received it, we're going to be completing the funding at the end of this year, and then the second year that we received it, we've been using it this year, last year, this year, and then in 2025. This installment, we're likely going to be using some of it this year for the municipal contracts with the police departments, but also in years to come. So the revenue associated for our office and will be included in our coming budgets.
3 years ago, I sensed a sense of panic from the department and sense of the amount of work that you're going to have, and also the inefficiencies that the department had in being able to do the work. So in your, do you believe that the amount that you're receiving is adequate for the amount of extra work that is being done and needed, and how has that transition gone? And it, you know,
It's gone well. I think, you know, the district attorney would like to add some more staff, so we're hoping to possibly add some more people in 2025 and 2026. We have been doing, I think, better than we expected, but we're still struggling a little bit with the work. Our work is never ending, and it's only kind of increasing.
You don't think they're going to do away with bail reform next year?
I don't think so. There may be some modifications. They've made some modifications to the discovery and the bail reform laws, but I don't think it's going to be a large enough modification that's going to decrease our workload. We don't know if we'll be receiving another installment of the discovery and bail reform funding. I guess we'll be finding that out next year.
There's extra garbage laying around because we don't have the inmate program program to go out and clean some of that up. It's another form of interference that's unrealized. Bail reform. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is amend 2023 budget to increase funding for the District Attorney Office expansion project within the Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA spending plan.
So this resolution is to increase our ARPA budget for the district attorney's office remodel. For those of you that aren't aware, we remodeled the office space that was formerly the print shop, which is directly next to the district attorney's office. We had one final expense that was larger than we had anticipated, so we have gone over budget by $25,000 in the project. So we've requested the increase through the ARPA committee, and they have approved it. So we're just requesting the budget amendment to increase our ARPA budget by $25,000, and that will complete the project.
And I just said that we all came in so close to what, can we have Blake come back down? Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations emergency services.
Morning, Bonnie Peters, Emergency Services.
Tim Carlson, redheaded stepchild for County EMS. Senior paramedic, sorry.
What you have before you is our 23 budget, year-end reconciliation. This is a budget, neutral, but, just so you know, a couple of things, under our increase appropriations, line 6 has a typo in it. It should be 3989, not 3689. And 2 lines down from that, you'll see that we had an increase in our contractual of 93,000. That is due to a new program that we started that Tim will be able to explain to you. And because it was new, we were unsure what to budget there, and we went over. But in the end, we were able to use money in our .1s to cover those additional expenses.
Thankful you had the money to be able to offset. But the question is, why did we have the extra? Did we not unable to hire the people? Were we unable to do the work? What was the reason?
So the reason we had extra was because we were starting the transport program, and you guys funded that starting the beginning of the year, but we had to wait until we actually got the ambulance and got it ready to go before those people were hired. So that is the savings from not having those people for the entire year.
And you had the savings for that you were able to utilize, and you didn't have to use. Did the department experience an over a good amount of revenue? Did you meet your revenue goals?
No, we did not meet our revenue goals. In part because we had added revenue in for that transport program, but again, due to, I think it took us about 9 months to get the vehicle and get it up and running. So we, I know that Noel had promised the legislature that we would not hire those personnel to cover that. until it was ready to go. So we had to wait a substantial period to get the vehicle ready. But and Timothy can tell you as well, I know that the revenue has increased substantially for us since we have started
Yeah,
that.
January's revenue was about 104,000, which is a large increase comparative to what we've had in the past.
Sure. We had you a little nervous by how much we decided to increase our revenue projections last year. Are you feeling a little more confident, or are you still nervous?
I think it's best to always be nervous and apprehensive when it comes to revenue from EMS, right? So, yeah.
Note taken for next year.
But the transport service has been heavily utilized.
Yes, yes. I'd say we're averaging about 2 transfers a day, 2 to 3. Sometimes we have 5. It's been very busy. In fact, I had to step out because our crew is getting sent on a transfer right now. The crews on the transfers side of things have been extremely helpful. We've received some pretty positive feedback from a patient. I've shared that with Pierre when I had met with him previously. Yeah, it's been working well. It's been getting people out of Westfield Hospital in a quicker manner, which is freeing up that facility and freeing up 911 assets on the back end as well, because they don't have to have lengthy stays waiting to get into the hospital. And if I'm rambling, you can stop me, Bonnie. I'm sorry.
We're thankful for the services that are being provided and the needs that are being filled, and at what expense or cost is sometimes a consideration. But in the long run, we do care for the individuals in our county, and that's what we want to help support. So,
Thank you.
good job.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is to authorize execution of Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation Impact Grant.
So, last month when we came to you, we had a grant that we received for Southern Chautauqua County. This is a grant we are receiving for the Northern Chautauqua County. It will be for the Stop the Bleed outfitting in the schools in the North County.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. At this time, I'm going to take something out of order to benefit these two individuals, so they don't have to take more of their time. We're going to pull an object under other. It's purchase of a 2002 Ford ambulance from Kyneton Independent Fire Department. I don't have the. Could you read the title, please, for me, Bonnie?
It is purchase of 2002 Ford ambulance from Kyneton Independent Fire Department.
And what's the resolution number?
I do not believe there is
It hasn't been assigned. Okay.
one on mine.
Thank
No.
you. What do we have?
So what it is Kyneton has they purchased a new ambulance. And so our seniors went out, looked at the ambulance, and are interested in adding it into our fleet. I don't know if I said, but Kyneton owns that free and clear. So they and us with our county attorney agreed to purchase that ambulance at the cost of $18,000. But what we agreed to is that it would be paid for with our ALS intercept fees with them. Instead of us giving money out to purchase it, it would be, we would take possession of it But we would pay for it through the intercept fees that we would usually charge them. Instead, it will come off of that $8,000. I can tell you that vehicle has 16,000 miles on it. It is a good vehicle. The reason that they're getting rid of it is because they have a new one. They purchased a new one.
And for context, for our interfacility side of things, the other day we had both ambulances that we utilized down for mechanical reasons. So we need a backup.
Our other ambulances that we have that were down, are they, that we've also purchased them used in certain aspects, and they're, you know, you're using them.
Yes.
And, you know, I think, do you have a plan of, you know, ambulances and replacement, when you're gonna replace them, when and how many you need, and, you know, so also you're gonna be providing the service, you can't have them down.
Correct.
And buying is important.
Yes.
And if you're utilizing, I get it, this ambulance is not all, you know, it's got some age, but it doesn't have a lot of miles on it, but is it dependable? And, you know, is this the, you know, we anticipated a pretty good savings from buying a new one for, you know, 150 to 200,000, so we're experiencing that. But is it going to be good? And also, my original question: do you have a plan? You know, when's this one going to get replaced, and is it on paper somewhere?
Correct. We don't have a plan for replacement of ambulances that we currently have, which is a problem. You know, we do need to work on that as a department. We need to work on that with the legislators to plan for that going forward. In the historical context of our ambulance side of things, it was kind of a wait and see for some time because our certificate of need for operations was up in the air. And we kind of erred on the side of caution. So now that we have that permanently established, our need is also growing. We need to plan accordingly with that need to better fill the gaps and plan for those ambulance purchases. This ambulance would be a good ambulance for us. It's in good shape. It's not rusted out. It has not had many mechanical issues at all. They've had good maintenance work done to it on a routine basis. I think it would be a good addition to our fleet and would be reliable for us. But to your point, yes, we need to start planning for that as things change.
So do you want me to make a note for that to add a couple into next year's budget?
If you come with the revenue source, that'd be great. I think to add in a plan is starting number one. It is important that because as your department has evolved and grown, you know, even the fly cars, right?
Yep.
Do you have a replacement plan for the fly cars? Do you have a you know, for the whole department?
So for the
you
fly
got a lot of
cars,
vehicles.
we do.
Yeah.
That's through the lease program, which we've just taken ownership, I guess you would say,
Yep.
of all of the fly cars. So all of our fly cars now are new in the fleet, which has been great. The other ones were getting tired and sick. So, yeah. And, you know, maybe that is a thing for us to look into as a county. Is there a leasing program for ambulances? Maybe that's an avenue to travel.
At least get some money, partial allocation. Or if you can get the revenue and just go pay cash for them, that would be okay.
Well, you know, we're doing good with the transport, but, you know, we don't want to.
I can start digging for gold
there
behind
you
the
go.
office. I'll let you guys know if I find anything.
What was our hope for back in the budget discussion, what were we hoping for, number of transports a day? Was it 2, or it wasn't a big number?
I believe that it was 2.
It was 2, okay. So we're exceeding that, 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly 3 now that I say it. I think it was 3 actually.
And I'm sorry I don't have the exact numbers with me.
That's okay, because I don't
But-
remember what we talked about 6
Yeah.
months.
But we are busy. That is very
Good,
busy.
good. I mean, we're at least meeting the projection, that's,
I believe so.
That's
I would comfortably say so.
County Executive.
Mr. Chair, if I could, one of the
Oh,
things
sorry.
I think, to keep in mind, this is involved really quickly, actually. When you look at the need for an ambulance backup we have in certain areas. But I think, with Tim and Noel and with Bonnie's assistance, looking at an opportunity for increasing our revenue. This is only our work with Westfield alone. Brooks has been eagerly awaiting for our availability. Should the need arise, there is a need arising for them. So I firmly believe that you will start to see an increase. I really have to commend the group so far as they're being very prudent on cost effectiveness. These ambulances are frontline ambulances that, departments have a replacement, a turnover after so many, years or miles, highly maintained, somewhat impeccable. But the piece here is, I think the more some of these ambulances are used, the better they are. They don't sit in a hand, I can say for Lakewood, we're running 2 and 3 calls a day, but somebody like Hyancho maybe not run as much. But now as the vehicle gets run, it's gonna be very reliable, very useful. So I really have to give, hats off to the taxpayer, to the group, because they have kept the taxpayers in mind. Utilizing used ambulances, looking at ways to, minimize those costs, but keeping in mind some of the concerns we've had, and Pierre's been here since its inception with the fly car program. We don't want to get ahead of our skis. We want to make sure that we're bringing in revenue, and that starts to get built up before we go out. A new ambulance is anywhere between $80,000 to $120,000. So, I know they're going to be looking in those replacements, but I think if there's anything learned from this, they want to make sure that we don't start to encumber, deficits prior to. We could go out and purchase 3 new ambulances, but you'd be looking at a deficit of about $350,000 or more, and then
at least,
we're playing catch up. So I really, and the support of the legislature has been great, as they, you're not pushing them, you're taking a very conservative approach to this as well. So I really want to commend the Tim and Noel and everybody, Bonnie, for what they're doing, because they are looking at that's a very conservative approach, but they're meeting those goals right now, and that's just with one hospital. That's not expanding to any others that we may see a need. Thank you.
And this ambulance will be utilized too for our 911 side of ambulance operations if needed. So. Back
well,
up.
our projections on the transports were, I think, just considering Westfield. I'm not downplaying it,
Correct.
I'm just saying that's what we're talking about. But if we also allocated, if we had $25,000 and a deal comes up, we could take advantage of it also. We don't necessarily have to allocate money to go buy the brand new $150,000 one, but if we did have the funds in place, we could. I know that's thinking more private sector, but
Right.
it's a thought. If we had $25,000 sitting there, we could buy an $18,000 ambulance.
Well, and those ambulances aren't relatively available, though. There's not very often that you do have the opportunity to buy that $18,000 ambulance. Departments only replace them so much too, and they're experiencing the same overhead of buying a new one. They're like, well, what's the
Yeah.
matter? Let's keep this one for another few years. So that's where that.
Didn't we buy the previous one used?
You did,
Yeah.
but
So we're 2 for 2.
All
Can't-
of our
no.
all
gotta
of our
have a plan.
ambulances except for one were purchased used. One ambulance was purchased new by the county, and that is ambulance 7. That its primary purpose was for the transport service, the interfacility service. Usually, how we get into these deals is out of the kindness of these agencies' hearts. They have an opportunity where they can help us out. And it's that collaboration and working relationship that we have with a lot of the agencies in the county that has really helped us to achieve what we do on a daily basis today, and what we will grow to achieve in the future.
other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Next proposed resolution is number 41. It's amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations office of the sheriff. And there is an amended version that we will be reviewing today.
Good morning. Riley Enlow, Fiscal Supervisor, Office of the Sheriff.
Corey Lymaster, Senior Communications Technician with the Sheriff's Office.
So this first resolution we have in front of you is for the 2023 year-end reconciliations. This is a budget neutral resolution. We were able to balance our overages in our department. I would like to note that E911, we did have to take $1,990 from the reserve, and for W911, we would have to take $131,225 from the reserve accounts that are earmarked specifically for those departments.
Questions, comments?
Nope.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is authorized lease agreement with the Village of Mayville.
So this lease agreement is for 1 year. We are only amending the budget for 10 months of the year, so a $4,500 budget amendment. This is paid for through the COSAP grant that we received in fiscal year 2021. We received it in 2021. This is for the reentry hub to reduce recidivism and increase safety in the community. The CARES coordinator and their staff will be housed in this building, and they'll be providing services to individuals to transition back into the community.
Well, I think it's good that we finally found a collaborating partner to be able to house this facility, and I thank the sheriff for putting the work into finding that location and also filling the need for it. So it's a good opportunity.
And if I could add, it was mentioned at the public safety meeting yesterday evening that the Village of Mayville did already approve this on their side as well. So
Good. If we had that thing, the satellite thing, would our phones be working today?
if you have FirstNet service, yes, and then it would pass the the 911 calls, just like the SOS mode does. So.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is authorized execution New York State Office of Homeland Security statewide interoperable communications grant program.
So this is a grant that we receive every year. It is based on a formula that the state Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services maintains. And this is just our portion based on how we score on, the application that we submit. It was already included in the budget. So this is just to approve and accept the funds for the grant.
Questions, comments?
So it's budget neutral.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is to authorize execution in New York State Office of Homeland Security Public Safety Answering Point.
This is a grant that we receive every year. It's for our dispatchers. It's a reimbursement grant. It funds 5 dispatchers' partial salaries. It's about $333,000 per dispatcher that it funds. The performance period is a little odd this year. It goes until 2024, but it was already budgeted in the 2023 budget, and we accrued it back into 2023, so it has no effect on the 2024 budget.
And this grant is also a formula-based grant based on the number of 911 calls, the number of admin line calls, non-emergency numbers in dispatch. plus the number of dispatchers that we have working full-time and part-time, all of that factors into the amount that we receive for this every year, so.
Do you know if this is part of the funds that everyone is charged through, like their phone bills?
Correct, so both the SIG, formula grant and the PSAP grant come from the portion of the 911 surcharge on everybody's cell phone bills that doesn't come directly to the county. So there's a portion of that that comes to the county, and then there's a portion that goes to the state to be, distributed back to the counties through grants and programs.
Do you know if they distribute 100% of those funds back into the communities?
I haven't seen the numbers, but there are, so these funds have very specific uses. These are also our E911 and W911 reserve accounts that we have. There's very specific things that can be used on this. There are things that can be done at the state level that they can use these funds for. So maybe not all of them are coming directly to the county, but they're hosting, say, grant workshops, meetings between, the consortiums of the 8 county regions that divide the state for communications. So things like that, they can use these funds for, so not all of it's coming back to the locality, but it's still benefiting, the local area.
Yeah. And the communications in all, I suppose.
Yes.
A lot of times people say that they're being penalized for this fee, and then the state doesn't have the tendency to distribute it back out. But and then that's this is not evidence where it is, and we are receiving some of it back and a good amount of it. So
And that is all mandated by the FCC, and they do manage, and the state does have to submit how they're distributing that money that they collect.
Mhm.
So there is a review process with that as well, but that's at the federal level. So.
good. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next proposed resolution today is to amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations of Veterans Service Agency. And there is also an amended version in front of us today.
It's me again. Good morning, Jennifer Swan, Budget Director for Chautauqua County. In front of you, you have the year-end resolution for Veteran Service Agency. The total amount of overage is $11,075, most of which they can adjust within their own budget. Unfortunately, they will be needing a little additional fund balance to offset the rest, to the tune of $2,960.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution, number 46, is amend the 2023 budget year-end reconciliations, public health.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Diana Songer, Deputy Director of Finance. Here for the resolution to amend the 23 budget for the Public Health Department. The increase in appropriation accounts is due to an increase in employee benefits and an increase in payroll allocations due to changes in staffing and extra hours that were worked, in addition to the added cost of the mobile health unit. These increases are offset by the payroll savings from the vacancies within the department. So it is a budget neutral resolution.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services. And there is an amended version that is in front of us all. We'll be reviewing today.
John Anderson, Deputy Commissioner, Social Services. Good morning.
Okay, this resolution is to amend the 23 budget for mental hygiene and social services. It isn't requesting an increase in the use of fund balance. The increase is due to an increase in the appropriation accounts caused by budgeting too low for the Code Blue and rental supplemental programs, and the increase in case numbers, which resulted in increased costs. We were able to offset the increase by the decrease in appropriation accounts, which were a result of vacancy savings and rate changes, and an increase in revenue.
When I look at these amounts, the 3.3 million, what is that as a percent of? And I'll let you tell me what the right to not total budget or total these accounts is. I don't have a sense of how big the budget is and how big a miss this is.
Possibly 10.
It's about 10%.
Yeah, I think we'd have to check on that to be certain about
Yeah,
that.
Jen may have that number.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
So there'd be a $30 million baseline. It's just a lot bigger numbers than we've been looking at, but it's a lot bigger department.
It is.
While we're waiting for that information, a question I have is through this year-end reconciliation process and through this transition, you've also experienced the department merging of finance, and I just take the opportunity to also poke around in other areas. So how'd that transition going, and even in developing this these budget transfers, or, you know, at the end and stuff? Is that?
So for me, I've only been in here about 2 weeks into the finance department. So Sam prepared most of this, and he has the knowledge, and he's not here today. But as for me, it's gone well. It's a lot to learn, but I think it's going to be a great change, and everyone's been very helpful.
John, how about you as a department? You've seen both sides of this. How's the transition gone, and like working with this and that?
Well, first of all, Sam and now Diana are both great to work with. And number two, I think for the staff that there's not been a huge change for them. It's been pretty much business as usual. So I would have to say very smooth overall for the transition. Sam took a while to come up to speed, and Diana now, she's working closely with him. So I would say it's been a very smooth transition.
Good. We're thankful, and it's important that the legislature, we look at these finances, and in a way that we do that is also by the way that the county looks at it as a whole and as a department. So, I asked the question because it's important, and I want to see how that transition has gone and the work that's been done out of it. Kitty, you had a...
I just wanted to add that the effective date of all the employee transfers is today. So, we went through the process as I described to you in the past. So the effective date is today. We didn't have anybody come kicking and screaming that I know of. Everyone, responded back positively to the transfer. So, as of today, we have a new finance department, and we'll be having, some ongoing, recurring department meetings just to kind of keep going through this transition.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject really quickly, the information that was requested. So the total amount of these amendments that you see before you, none of them are mental hygiene. They're all for social services. The social services 2023 initial budget was $43,045,867. And they were able to amend within their budget for all but 500, or I'm sorry, I don't have the amended version.
It's 297,
I'm sorry,
206.
yes, all but 297,206, so,
That's a round numbers, about 7%.
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is amend the 2024 budget to implement the Women's Shelter Program, Shelter Project within the Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act spending plan.
Carmelo Hernandez, Commissioner of Social Services and Mental Hygiene.
This resolution is requesting consideration for the use of ARPA funds to support the implementation of a women's shelter in the city of Jamestown. The request is for $100,000. This would be a women's shelter that would house 16 and a combination of single and double occupancy rooms. Chautauqua Opportunities are the individuals that applied in the RFP. And this would be start-off funding because there's other sources of funding that they applied at the state level from OTDA.
Did you have other respondents to the RFT?
One. Yeah, it was the United Christian Advocacy Network Men's Shelter. Go ahead.
Did they have a good plan? I mean, and could they use more funds? You know, this was particular project was for 100,000, and was it a shame to, you know, it's great to have the 2 inquiries, and we awarded one. Is it a consideration to reward the other, and should you put another new ask out for the same type of issue?
Well, what they applied for was a new HVAC system, and right now they're working with OTDA on replacement of that system, and they have funding through the state for that purpose.
Good. So it wasn't for a new building and a new inquiry?
No.
So it was just upgrading, which is still just as important. I don't want to take that off, but I wanted to ask that question today about if there were any other ones out there. And if they're, thank you.
Just the 2.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, proposed resolution is amend the 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Department of Planning and Development.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave McCoy. I'm the County Watershed Coordinator, and I work within the Office of Planning and Economic Development. This first resolution is just a year-end resolution. Balances are 80-20 and 64-40 accounts. It's neutral.
More work than, what was the difference in work? From one department to another, you did a little more work than anticipated, you know, in the promotion of industry. Just more hours, different projects that called for more personnel usage, or?
You know, we're crazy busy on,
Yeah.
really on all sides, and, you know, the .1s and .8s, I mean, they're often difficult to budget for.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, sometimes we have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, no, and they're very, very minimal, you know, but it's good to, questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is number 50, amend the 2024 budget to implement Lake Erie sediment assessments.
Yeah, this is a 2-year project being funded out of the 6420 side of the program. It's not surprising that we're back here to push this off into the 22 budget because it's a 2-year project. This transcends both budget years. It's expected that we'd be here.
Questions, comments? This will close out this project, and I'm sure you have others in the frying pan for upcoming projects.
You know, it has the potential to be a very important project because it could have an influence on how we manage our harbors. You know, Lake Erie is really a crazy place, a lot of energy, unlimited amount of energy, unlimited amount of sediments, and this particular consultant specializes in looking at things from a sort of an out-of-the-box perspective, seeing things that maybe we haven't seen before. So I'm optimistic something good will happen.
Who's the consultant again? What's the firm's name?
Proof projects?
Proof Projects. Okay.
Do you ever see a more utilization of water transportation? You know, back in 1900, Lake Erie was utilized a lot more than it is today. Do you ever see a trend going the other way? Or, you know,
Well, you know, the Great Lakes navigation system is like 1,600 miles long, and it's mostly deep draft the whole way. So it gives an awful opportunity for the big ore boats and things like that. And our harbors are primarily recreational, but they also function as harbors of refuge. You know, there's quite a bit of distance between them, and if a storm comes up, you need to find someplace safe to hide. And that's particularly true of some of the smaller boats, you know, if you're a recreational sailor or somebody like that. If you gotta go 16 miles from Barcelona to Dunkirk, you might not get there if the weather gets bad, so it's good to have Barcelona be functional. Do I see a big increase? I don't really know. But, you know, after the pandemic, we saw a big increase in boat sales and people on the water. I think our occupancy tax reflected that increase. Is that going to continue in the future? I don't know. But, you know, this year's collections are about where we hoped they would be. So,
you know, and you look at the Ripley project, even at that we're putting into these shovel-ready sites, you never know what type of industry could move into there, and would they utilize that travel?
yeah.
Maybe. We don't know who comes in.
Yeah. But, you know, in terms of our harbor's impacts on the local economy, I mean, my gosh, if you happen to be in Barcelona during the South Towns Walleye Shootout, which is the richest walleye tournament on Lake Erie, there are cars parked in the parking lot, on the access road, and going down Route 5, you know, it's full. And they're selling gas, and they're selling food, and the rest of that comes with the sport fishing industry. So there are impacts that may be a little difficult to quantify, but they are positive.
Yep.
Well, Lake Erie's a really underutilized resource. I sit on the hill on my farm, I look out over Lake Erie, and there's one there, one there, one there. Come up to Lake Chautauqua and you're covered in boats. It's a dangerous lake, and harbors of refuge are important.
Yep.
But it's a fun
Yeah.
lake. It's an ocean.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Next resolution today is amendment 2020 for budget to implement Walnut Creek stabilization.
This is one of our run-of-the-mill 2% occupancy tax grant program projects. Walnut Creek, you know, it runs together with Silver Creek and in downtown Silver Creek. It's a pretty nasty stream. It gets wild, and this is an effort, one of several efforts to try to keep the banks from getting washed out. They just didn't get to it in 2023. This is going to give them one more opportunity to take it on in 2024. The village is administrating this, trying to work with them to make sure that they can move it forward. If they don't get it this year, money will go back into the reserve. I hate to do that to a municipality, but
Is that our normal practice? If they don't use it, do we give them a
yeah.
second?
The intent is to spend that money down the year you're awarded, okay? But we have some challenges, like it takes a while to get a contract through law and get it executed and the rest of that. So in reality, a lot of folks don't get a chance to get started until early spring, maybe late spring. So that plays into it. We have offered 1-year extensions in certain cases. And the next project we're going to talk about, Chautauqua Marina, is an example of a project that really has generated a lot of interest, has a lot of stakeholders, and is about 75% complete. They just ran out of year before they ran out of time, you know what I'm saying? They just didn't have enough time to get it all in.
So that's nothing new, they've given them an extra year.
Yeah, they're putting in some native plantings. you know,
Walnut
to
trees?
stabilize the shoreline and whatnot, and to be successful, those things need to be planted, not during the driest times of the year, but in the spring. Do they have a chance?
Are they matching any, are they putting skin in the game too? I mean, you know, it's $30,000. Are they putting in anything, Village of Silver Creek?
The Village of Silver Creek, a lot of it will be in kind.
Mm-hmm.
So they will probably be handling some of the materials and placing it, or,
Yeah,
you know, their highway department's been pretty good up there with that sort of thing.
yeah. I didn't know if they had, you know, we're putting in 30,000 too and doing double the plants or something. You know, a lot of times there's other contributors to these projects too, and so, and if one person backs out, they can't move forward with the rest of it, right? So,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution, I think it's the one we're looking for.
Yeah, similar to the last one, it's a occupancy tax project. This is one of my favorites because it's involving an awful lot of stakeholders. It's a very visible project, and it's helping a local business, a marina on Chautauqua Lake. So there's a lot of boxes that are being checked with this.
Any questions, comments on the Chautauqua Lake Marina project? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got a long wait today.
I was gonna propose that we order pizza.
We can have it under the discussion to see if there's anything left in the ARPA purchase.
For pizza?
Maybe. Next on the item, on the agenda today is a discussion, and we have Blake Ehrig coming in today to discuss the ARPA account, to see where it stands, what's available.
So again, Blake Ehrig, Director of Administrative Services. So we are required to report our ARPA projects to the Department of Treasury. So this is just the 2023 Q4 report. And I added, I'm not sure if you guys have in front of you, but I added what we reported in 2023 Q3 and what was reported at the end of last year. And we made significant progress between the two quarters. We had about a change of expense of 8.7 million. So we have roughly about close to 7 million left to be spent down throughout the remaining of the year. So, and then including the projects that I was up here earlier, stating that are completed and closed. A total of the 75 total projects, 31 of them have either been closed, completed, or canceled. So that leaves about 44 remaining projects. But like I said, about $7 million left to be spent down, and we are making quite a bit of progress on that front.
So, does that leave us anything in the kitty?
So what I have here, there's a little bit of lag because obviously it's February and this was reported at the end of the year. So what it's showing about 228,000 left. However, since that's been allocated to already through January and February, we have about 25,000 left. But there are other avenues that still need to be discussed, like the interest earned in 2024 with the ARPA funding. It's currently in a municipal bond collecting interest. So I'm currently working out that numbers and projecting that out for the remaining of the year. But obviously, as we spend down that amount, the lower interest earned will be.
And then the interest earned, there's no parameters around the expense of that. We could use it for anything, and there is no time deadline on that.
Correct.
So, and we did utilize some of it for budgetary offsets this last year, but there's still a remaining sum in there, and that's still accruing every day, so it's important.
So we're not required to, that interest doesn't go back into the ARPA?
Correct.
funding?
Not, it's up for discussion.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, how many projects are on the wait list?
Only 2, and I think that total is roughly 270,000. So, so yeah, that's as of right now. But I have a few department heads have reached out to me, coming up with some ideas to for new requests. But they're fully aware of the urgency that kind of need to be spent down. So.
Mm-hmm.
We're not soliciting new requests.
We're not soliciting, but they tend to email me saying, "Hey,
Why
I
not?"
come across this." So,
You know, how much are we, right now, there's only 25,000 that we are
Correct.
anticipating not to have spent. Most of these other projects, they look like they're gonna come to fruition and we're gonna be able to spend it.
well, just the 2 that are officially on the new request list. It's like I said, I think one was for 200,000, the other one might have been for 70. I'm not sure if we'll get to that point, but you know, these projects come in either right around the budget or under budget. You know, who knows? It's tough to say, but that's, again, kind of time will tell, and anything's up for discussion. So.
Yeah.
But if they come in as close as they did on their last one, there's not gonna be a whole lot of.
Ideally, but then to mention the interest, because in 2023 the interest income earned was roughly 800,000 that we used towards the budget. So that's obviously, I mean, we won't get to that point because as we spend down, like I said, we'll be earning less interest, but still, it should be.
That's, you know, and there's other good projects that could come to, you know, and you even think of like, you know, we're just asking a department if they had any plan on replacing ambulances, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go, pretty
There's
easy
the
plug-in.
ambulance right there.
Pay for the ambulance, right? So, no, there's always plenty of good projects that are
Right.
easy plug and play in a department like that, and that certainly
Well,
help.
if you don't ask, you're not gonna get it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, if we're gonna lend the IDA $5.25 million, we need to build up our slush fund.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add a comment to the discussion. The ARPA Review Committee, in conjunction with the county executive, meets every month. And if you will, this is a bit of a tightrope that we're on here because we are required to have all of our ARPA funds that were given to the county committed by the end of this year and fully spent by the end of 2026. So we want to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a situation at the end of this year where we haven't committed all the funds that were given to us and have to give it back to the federal government. Now, the interest earnings are a separate issue because we don't have to give those back. Those are ours as we're earning those. But those do create opportunities for, as we're talking about, additional opportunities for additional projects. So we're trying to manage the projects that have been committed. As Blake knows, he's well aware of my nickname as Pierre the Pest. So he gets emails from me often during the month,
His words,
following
not
up on
mine.
projects and making sure that we're on top of these. So when we get to the end of this year, we have committed all of the funds that we can to be maximizing our utilization of the ARPA funds from the federal government.
Can we overcommit? So let's say we have 4 projects that we commit. Just meaning that we don't do them, right, but we're committed to do them. So you know where, like.
I know where you're going, but then those are funds that we could have used for another project. The amount that we overcommitted, we could have used those for another project that we could get committed and get completed in time.
No, I mean after our deadline. Well, so let's say some of these outstanding projects that aren't completed, but all of a sudden now in 2026, you have extra money and say, well, we already have a project committed, we could just
Yes.
fill it in behind the date.
If we get to December 30th and we have some funds left over, we can commit them to make sure that we've committed everything that we can. But I don't want to get to December 30th and be dealing with this.
No, my point was to overcommit too, is to, commit a couple projects that we don't have the funding for.
All you have to do is commit one big project.
Well, right.
Well, we have that right now, those
Clean up
projects that he's
everything.
talking about.
Yeah.
So there are 2 projects outstanding that could be funded, should the funding come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get the funding for it. That's why, if you remember, that's why we were focused on the the Strong Starts money and that $700,000 for the lead program, because that's been sitting there now.
Yeah.
2.5 years with very little action. So we want to make sure that, we're kind of keeping their feet to the fire. You need to spend this money now because, as Pierre said, we don't want to be there in January. We know we can get that money spent, but we also want to make sure we do it diligent and prudent to make sure that it's really the right
But
way.
we're able to move that money, right? If we've committed it to something and they're not performing,
Yes.
are we allowed to withdraw it?
Come January, no?
No.
So,
It's committed to a project. The project is not going to be completed. We're going to wind up giving that money back.
but they do have a couple years after this to
But-
complete the
Right.
project, so.
But can we take that money and allocate it to another ARPA project?
Until December 31st,
Right, let's
yes.
say there's $500,000 sitting there and they're not spending it.
Right.
They've been warned.
That's what we talk to them about every month, and Blake talks to them
Yeah.
several times a
What I'm
month.
saying, the answer
Yes.
is we can take that money and
We've done it.
put it to another project.
Yes.
If you remember
Till the
back
end
in-
of this year.
Yeah, back at the beginning, that's whatever we allocated for the sewer project. Once we knew that money,
Right,
we
okay.
could pull it back. Yep, exactly.
No, I didn't remember,
And-
but I do now.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're
You guys.
guns are loaded. We're ready.
Yeah. No, and
We're ready to do the.
I
You're
think
right.
it needs to be said that this is being reviewed every month and
Oh, yes.
Blake's on it. We're on it.
We're on it.
We're on it.
When you're not in it, you're not.
The last thing we want to do is have to give any money back.
Right.
That, to me, that shows an inability for us to do our job.
You know, we should be able to spend money.
Well, and that's my
Until-
Ask the media, they'll tell you we can spend it, right?
Oh, yes,
It's in the paper all the time.
And it's all.
So, and just a little sidebar too, during the break, I wanted to call in the Anna Powell, who's in charge of the lead program. I wanted her to come into the committee next month and just, update us on where they are. So next month, we'll have some, I'm gonna ask her to come in so that we can be updated on how they're spending the money too.
Right.
So that way we can, get a better, perspective right from so
The
expect that
philosophy,
next
yeah,
week.
The philosophy in that department was different under the previous administration. The new administration has a completely different philosophy as to how monies and the urgency of staying committed to the task.
Good.
Any other questions for Blake? Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
What's the lead project?
What's the next project?
No, the lead. He asked
What-
what the
what-
lead
what's the
project
acronym?
is.
For the lead projects,
Yeah.
lead remediation.
Oh, so literally
Homes that have lead-based paint,
LEAD.
right? And the priority is homes that have young children.
Did I say 2 minutes?
Pierre
I think
told
next,
me.
county executive, Wendell, you wanted to?
I have in mind too.
Take 3 minutes.
I have an interview I have to do. Real quick, County Executive Wendell, a couple of things I wanted to touch base on. It really started with public facilities. So some of the questions you have, and if you can kind of follow what we're doing. So my commitment to the county has always been efficient, effective county government. We're moving that ball every
almost every day, but every couple of months, every year. So what we looked at is during COVID, we started to have to space people out more. So it's always been in the back of our head. And when we come to our civil service exams, we have B10 down in the basement. We utilize this room. We utilize 331, 333. Well, in talking with Don Emhart from the town of Chautauqua and Josh Rothwell, buildings and grounds supervisor, we went up and walked around the facility at 2 Academy Street. We have an agreement that's been signed. We're looking to progress, and we will be doing all of our civil service exams in called the new gym, if you will. There's an older gym that they call Celebration Hall. So there's another wing that was flooded where the public defender and probation was. That whole entire wing had a different lease agreement with an outside party. So we've talked to the supervisor. We will then utilize that Celebration Hall, carpeted, windows, lighting, and be able to set up for our exams and leave the place set up extensively. Having said that, in a future agreement, talking to the attorney looking for more space, there are 2 rooms in that same hallway that we could utilize. We've already talked to the supervisor. We said we're very much interested in those rooms. So those are a future, endeavor going down. The reason where this all comes into play, by going up on the hill, that gives us B10 to utilize. The Board of Election has a room downstairs they call the front room. They have a part of B10 where they put the voting machines, and they also have space out in Bust-I where they have larger pieces of equipment that don't fit here. So the Board of Elections is all over the south end, or it's really all over the county. So by vacating B10 as a testing center, we are going to move all of the voting equipment from the front room into B10 and taking everything out of Bust-I and moving that into the basement here into what they call their front room. They call them bumblebees. They're the yellow steel structures, or metal structures you vote in. All of that will be centralized in one location, so Board of Elections doesn't have to drive all over the county to get their equipment. Also, having said that, what it does is frees up space in Bust-I, and Dr. Falk has already discussed this with expanding the coroner's program, and the district attorney has been talking of future projects of a homicide investigation team, also looking at our coroner to be housed right there, and that morgue unit to be housed in our Bust-I facility. So moving this piece to Academy frees up space in the basement, that frees up space in Bust-I, that allows us to move and utilize that space for a morgue space, which is going to enhance their project. So in that theme that I've had all along, a couple of different things are in place to where this will all, move forward in a timely fashion. Coming back from a conference in Maryland, there is embedded bureaucracy in county governments. We know that, so getting this moved we're going to keep continuing. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that, that move to Academy Street isn't just whimsical or, we wanted to make it more convenient. Yes, it is convenient. It's a centralized location. We don't have to put, a proctor here, a proctor downstairs, and then a proctor in this room. We could have one large facility, thus consolidating the costs a little bit, but giving us a better testing facility. So HR is excited. We're waiting on, we have a temporary space up on Academy. Once this other lease is discussed with the town, it's an outside party, then we'll start to talk to the town more of utilizing that space and really utilizing some more shared services, if you will, in agreements with the town. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win, but it's all part of that efficiency that I'm trying to, focus on here in the county. Centralizing the Board of Elections, all of their equipment, but then freeing up space for the coroner's program. So that's it. Pretty simple.
Here, I was just excited that we had everybody having space for the testing.
Well, that's it. It is a big piece, yeah.
It's nice that it.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, that's just it. And the best part about this is, as we talked about that, then we saw other avenues, and especially, moving all of the Board of Elections to their equipment here, and then talking to Dr. Falk one afternoon. He said, wow, wow, yeah, we could probably use that. So I know he and Tim Card went out and viewed that facility. So yes, everything's kind of fitting into a plan and moving forward. So we're excited. Yep.
Yesterday I saw a rendering that an artist drew a conception of the plan of when they built this particular building. And in that rendering, there was a building over there that was bigger than this one. We haven't gotten to that extreme yet, have we?
We haven't, but that's more to come. There's more to come. So if you think about this, one of the projects I've been involved in now with Drew Rogers is this building has not been touched in the 50 or 60 years since it was built. Hallways are the biggest waste of space in a government building. Obviously, if we took down the walls, we could utilize all of that space. So if you vision, like, let's say this hallway, for example, instead of coming here, if you make a right and you put a glass doors, and you took out the walls, you'd have much more space for the attorney's office, for the county executive's office, et cetera. If you go downstairs to HR, we are looking at that, to where you put in one of those doors and take away the black fireproof doors, making sure that it's fire code appropriate. But then you take those walls, now you have offices around the periphery that are all the same. Right now, some are different sizes. It's just kind of been put together. We band-aided things. So now we're going to take a better look at how do we better utilize this space. So there are projects we have going on right now. We are speaking to different opportunities, if you will. Yeah, we've talked. I mean, if it were my vision, we would, that parking lot would be great. We could put a building there and then, house. But again, it has to be prudent. And, I tell everybody, whenever we do that, it's a great opportunity. And the artists and the conceptual people give you a great rendering, but what they fail to do is tell you the cost. So as we sit here, you sit here and I sit here, the added cost is the taxpayer. We want to make sure we're doing this, prudently for them as well.
That rendering was drawn from when they built this building back then.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
It was old. And
Well,
the cost is probably quadrupled by, 200% since then.
HRC, if I'm not mistaken, I looked in one of the books, was built at the tune of $2.4 million.
Oh, let's build another one for it.
You couldn't build a garage for $2.4 million right now, as you'll find out. Yeah, we looked at a project here. We were told construction costs are about $230 a square foot. The biggest crippling effect we have is state prevailing wage. If we did anything as the county, that's what we have to pay an outside contractor. If we had somebody else purchase a property, remodel, which we've done, if you look at Franklin Street, if you look at Lucas Street, that's why we went that avenue. Jacob Sim has been a great partner with the county. He bought the property. He did the remodeling. We move in and he charges us appropriately in the lease. But if that were the county to do that, the cost doubles. And that's what, we talk to different places we're looking at property. They don't understand that because they don't know that's a problem that, the counties are forced with. And it's unfortunate because as we're trying to be prudent with taxpayer dollars, the state itself is telling you double your cost. I'm sure the media is going to take a hold of this and, my constant complaining about the state, but those are the facts that we have to, it's the parameters we have to work in, but we'll make it happen. And that's why we're looking at creative ways and more to come with that. We do have a couple of other opportunities we're exploring right now, so I'll be happy to report in the future. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything under other? Motion to adjourn. And a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone.
I would love to see the